away we go. Have a look at the four-wheel drive. Number 38, get away with Bob Pearson at the wheel. He has absolutely charged away from the line. He drops into fourth place as they head down through turn one. Has anyone told Bob this is a 4-hour?
No, and Bob doesn't know anything other than just going hard, especially here at Sydney Motorsport Park, where he took 4 one-hour race wins last year.
Eric Linton there at the, Tim Lay at the wheel of the M3. He's just held up Bob there. He's held his charge through to the front there. We've got one of the M3s, or another one of the M3s just in the back of shot there. We'll get more details as they start to pan out a bit. There goes Lachlan Gibbons, and has Bob Pearson got a flat?
Oh,
Has
really?
he got a left front flat tyre?
Yeah,
He's going back. He's going backwards, definitely. Has he peeled a tyre off the rim? He got off the line that hard. Wow. There we go. We look back down through the field. There's the Nailers. There's Nathan Callahan in the HSV. Miller in the High-Tech Oils Stokes Skis outfit. Getting rid of the Evo 9. And in the last week or so, buying the old CXC Global Evo 10. And really, really wisely running with Dylan Thomas as the co-driver. Dylan Thomas, of course, was in a controversial race here a number of years ago. And then we're going to go 3 wide. There's Bob Pearson. He's definitely going backwards, isn't he? Got the front of the car bobbing around there. That's a horrible start to a 4-hour race. He got away magnificently, and he's hurt the car somehow. Yeah,
and I think Callahan going past him just a second ago as if he was standing still. There's Miller in the number 20. That is, of course, Jason Miller. Shares it with Dylan Thomas in the Stokes Skis Australia car. We should mention too that the number 15, the race for a cure, Mitsubishi Evo 10 with the Cabbage brothers in there, starting from pit lane in the race. It had a bit of a gearbox issue, I think, yesterday. They didn't qualify.
Yeah, they didn't get in qualifying, did they? They've had to get some dispensation to get out in this race and get a position in this. Here's the M4.
Bob Pearson's come into pit lane.
Here's the M4 out after the M3. These BMWs have got to not battle with each other, work with each other in this early stage of the race, and not let these Lotuses get away.
Front left looks like the issue, as you called it, Daz, for Bob Pearson. Car's raised now, and they're working on that front left tyre.
Oh, big lock-up in the number 1 car there, rear tyre lock-up. Wow, that's a bit early. This is a little bit frantic early stages for this 4-hour. There's some drivers that need to take a bit of a deep breath and consider what's going on. Having said that, I've just been encouraging the 2 BMWs to work with each other to get onto the back of the Lotuses, haven't I?
Yeah, you certainly have. And Lockie Gibbons in the WRX, the Subaru, up there as well. Pearson tyre change and back out again for the Evo 10.
He won't go down a lap either. He'll get back out. He's a long, long way behind, but he's not going to go down a lap. So that's very important. Now we're going to see some quick laps. Bob will be angry. And Bob worked up. It's not worked up, really. It's quite relaxed, isn't it? But behind the wheel, he'll apply all of his years of knowledge.
They've had some bad luck, haven't they?
Yeah.
In that car. They didn't race at Queensland Raceway.
They've had some good luck too.
They've had some good luck, for sure. But this year especially, 2018, it's just been a tough year for Bob Pearson and Rick Bates.
There's the 84 Conroy Motorsport car. Scott Walsh at the wheel now, down in 21st spot. And confirmed from our partners in pit lane down there that it was a left front for Bob Pearson.
Geez, you mentioned Jordan Cox before, Daz, in that BMW. He has jumped up 16 spots. Now into 7th place.
Confirmed that it is Jordan Cox at the wheel then. There we go.
Full respect to Rob Rubis.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's confirmed it. Here we go now, the M4 again at turn 6, having a look down the inside of the M3. Car 1, all over the back of Derby Brereton in the 23. Have to stop using that reference, won't I?
Yeah.
But the M3 is kind of barrel-chested, isn't it? It looks like it's purposeful.
Yeah.
It looks like it'd run through a pack of Essendon football.
It has a little bit of a strut about it, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That is for positions 4 and 5. Tim Lay in the BMW 3. Grant Sherrin in the BMW M4. Sorry, Grant Shannons, did I say? Yes, I did say Grant Shannons in the BMW M4. That's for 4th and 5th at the moment on screen. Ryan Simpson, though, starts to just pull away from the rest of the Lotuses. Ryan Simpson now a 3-second gap between himself and Tony D'Alberto, who crosses the line.
That's down at Conroy Motorsport. They're watching the number 84.
Here comes Grant Shannons. Just not close enough. So down to Greg Rust in pit lane. Rusty.
Boys, I've just wandered into the product pit. Initially, there was kind of some raised eyebrows. They wondered if it was a valve issue or something. But the team tell me now they believe there was some contact with Tim Lay in the early part of that race, and that contact may be what triggered the puncture for Bob Pearson.
Yeah, that one will be fought out for a long time to come, I would suggest. It's going to take replay after replay at the start line to see that. Bob was rapid off the line.
Oh, flew.
Absolutely rapid. So I'm not sure how much Tim Lay would have even played into that.
I actually think the only thing Bob hit off the start line was the sound barrier.
Yeah, and certainly that clutch gave that the good here we go. But those cars have got a swag of electronic controls to get that launch control off the line. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see some analysis in the weeks to come of that start line run there for Bob. Great shots out of our car number 1, reigning Bathurst 6-hour champions. You'd have to suggest off the back of that with a 6-hour. Here's a change for position here. This is the BMW of Woods and Morale, the John Goodacre car there, the Easy Poles outfit.
The wheel at the moment.
Hadrian Morale, yep. And that's coming through the field, so working pretty hard with it. I think that's the 135. Yeah, oh no, it's A1, it's an M3. So you'd have to suggest with their victory in that 6-hour at Bathurst that the M4 would be thereabouts favourite for the final round that first weekend in November at Phillip Island.
Grant Shannons just got a little bit left to right.
Do you get the feeling that he's getting a bit impatient here with Tim Lay?
Yeah, you do get that feeling. I think it's been that for the last couple of laps for Grant Shannons. Just can't find an opportunity to get past him though at the moment.
Tim Lay's an excellent racing car driver. He's probably a good few years older than Ryan Simpson, but in the same vein, the same sort of race driver. For one reason or another, never went exactly pro with it, but should have, could have.
Yeah.
And probably still can. We saw him at Queensland Raceway earn his keep, that's for sure.
Unfortunately for Grant Shannons, he probably feels that the longer he stays behind Tim, the further ahead the Lotuses are getting at the moment. There is now a good 10-second gap between Ryan Simpson in first place and Tim Lay back in 4th.
The fact that Ryan Simpson has got himself, 2.5-second gap over Tony D'Alberto says to me that Tony D'Alberto and Grant Denyer have set a lap time. That's the lap time that they're going to stick to. And Tony D'Alberto, being a pro, will have agreed to that strategy, and that's now what he's going to do. Still wringing the neck of the 350.
Colin Osborne on screen.
One of our better production car endurance strategists and racers is Colin Osborne.
Sharing that car that he has at the moment, the 31 with Cal Jones, who's out there. The C class, they're currently running 3rd in that class. Blake Orban with his brother, currently leading C class in their Renault Megane.
This is our race leader for Mocom and Parramatta Smash Repairs. Out in front now, Ryan Simpson. I guess they've said, Ryan, there's the car, go win the race. He did a ripping job chasing down a 2nd place on the Saturday afternoon at Winton. Gut-wrenching 2nd place, wasn't it?
One of the most amazing drives we've ever seen, making up 23 seconds, I think, in 17 laps, and going down by 0.25.
At the end of the day, it was still 2nd place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely wrung its neck. Here we go. These are the 2 BMWs.
We should mention too, the reason he was 27 seconds down was he had to endure a drive-through just before that. So was leading the race at the time. Doing it nicely though, ahead of Tony D'Alberto, Jake Camilleri in 3rd, the 3 Lotuses up front. Grant Shannons trying wide this time. No luck there either.
And he's lost a lot of real estate there. I think was trying to go wide and ended up just out breaking himself a little bit there, because if you're going to go wide, you want to be up the inside of the number 23 about there. And he's missed that opportunity by quite a long way. Here's the Matt Thulis Luft car over the 84 of Walsh. They're finding it out for 19th and 20th respectively. The Mini over the Kia GT. Very stiffly sprung rear end on the Kia. Wobbling and bouncing around in the back. That is going to make a very long 4-hour if the car's handling like that through there. It's going to rattle the teeth out of your gums. Around we go. Again at the hairpin. Just trying to rattle Tim Lay. The Shannon car looks nice. It's riding the bumps. He's putting it in the right part of the track, albeit last time through the hairpin just messed that up a little bit. But both these cars look quite poised. If it wasn't for 3 Lotuses out in front, you'd say, yeah, they're the guys setting the pace at the moment. Ryan Simpson fastest lap at a 140.77. Tony D'Alberto a 141.3. Remember that time, 141.3?
Yep.
All thereabouts. Jake Camilleri a 142.7. Tim Lay a 143.2. And Grant Sharon a 143.3. Let's have a look down to A2. It's Nathan Callahan leading the way there. And we go down to the lane with Cam.
You're just talking about those lap times, guys, that you were referring to, the 141s. If you actually look back to qualifying 2, which occurred yesterday with the Australian Production Car Series, Ryan Simpson dropped down into a 38.5. Tony D'Alberto was running in a 39.6 at the time. Just shows you how much time drops out of it when you've got car and driver management.
There's Jim Policina. He's managing the team down there at the moment. No, in fact, he's handed that over to Dean Lilly, a very experienced race car builder and team manager, engineer is Dean. Very well respected across the motorsport landscape here in Australia. And there is a BMW M4 moving on its tyres. That's not a good sign this early in the race. Ranging up into the back of the M3 there. Gee, it's strong under brakes, the M4.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Cameron bringing up a good point there in regards to race time and 1 lap pace time. And there's no doubt these Lotuses have them both. They've got good race pace and they've also got great qualifying pace as well.
Well, we did hear from the aforementioned Dean Lilly about how light they are on their tyre. The only thing he's concerned about is the right rear, basically, because on the heavy, loaded, fast right-handers here at Sydney Motorsport Park, they're the ones that are going to get the punishment as our race leader comes up onto the back of Bob Pearson now. These are the guys battling it out for 4th and 5th. And we're sticking with it because this really is the battle in the race, albeit that our race leader is trying to dispatch with the Product Evo 10.
Well, this time maybe Grant Sherritt. Good move, stayed up on the inside through the hairpin. Has he got the pace now to out-drag Tim Lay down into turns 11 and back into the straight? He has. He's got it done. The
There
2 German-marked cars, the BMWs, the M4, just finally gets in front of the M3 and now will start to use its pace to chase down those Lotuses.
I don't think Tim Lay's going to lie down at that.
No, I'm sure he won't.
In fact, I think Tim Lay might put the switch the old strategic brain on and just run with this now. I guess right up until the temp gauge starts to work its way up, because it would have been in the M4 after so many laps jammed up behind in the stalled air behind the M4.
So you don't expect Tim to lay down?
No, at all. Never. By name and nature.
I'm sure. Grant Sherritt's going to have a tough time of it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The M4's working well, though. It'd be, apart from the fact that it's not matching the pace with these guys and their Lotuses, the car looks nice. Looks like it's a pretty handy thing to drive. Just pretend we're chatting about something funny. You giggle now and I'll giggle next.
No, that's what they're doing, surely.
Caption this.
Gold Logie winner Grant Tenure. Also a pretty damn good driver, as we've seen
Absolutely.
over many, many years.
Yeah, yep. won a GT race at Phillip Island just a couple of years ago. One of those 101s, a long distance race. He's doing a ripping job for Simply Sports Cars and just cuts in the Lotus. No complaints, that's for sure.
And a good combination. Tony D'Alberto, a very seasoned driver as well, part of the endurance team for DJR Team Penske.
This car we're looking at now, James Keane at the wheel of number 50, and it's down to the lane with Cam.
Well, I thought I'd grab Dean Lilly. We were talking about you just a minute ago and how you're managing a driver like Ryan Simpson at this point of the race. Lap times are about 2-3 seconds off what he can do in the car. Do you set him a target time, or is it just managing, trusting him to manage the car throughout the stint?
Yeah, he's pretty good at that. He's always got some up his sleeve if we need to push hard, but at the moment we don't. We've got a 6-second lead. We're just trying to, look after the car, really. It's a long race.
But you've been looking at his sector times as well. He's been actually quite quick whilst managing the car.
Yeah, it's starting to seesaw a bit now because we're getting into the traffic and that's starting to come into play, but, that's part of this racing too, is managing the traffic and picking your way through, so he's going good.
Now, we had a chat before this race got underway about what these cars are good with. You said they're very good on tyres. What are the concerns? What are the challenges with these cars compared to the other cars out there, and particularly over 4 hours?
Oh, they're still production cars, mate. They're not a fully fledged race car by any stretch, so you can't drive them flat out for 4 hours. So constantly managing brakes, gearbox, tyres, fuel usage. It's just a hell of a game.
Now, you've also worked on Super 2 cars, you've worked on TCM cars, you've worked on all sorts of cars. A production car, that'd be easy to work on, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, my background's production cars, and I ended up doing the other stuff. These are hard to make them last, any production car. So all the guys that finish these Enduros, full credit to them, because they are hard to keep them going.
All right, Dean, I'll let you get back to it and enjoy the race.
Thanks, mate.
Dean Lilly there, out of Lilydale in Melbourne. Respected race car man across the whole gamut. He's got a very good mind.
Very cool
about going racing,
car.
Exceptionally. That's what you've got to be.
Yeah.
You talk to Alan Heafy, he's 30 years on from Dean Lilly. They're cool, calm and collected. They can't let the little things faze them. They've got a big picture and they've got to achieve it. And that's how they go about it.
How tough is it, Daz? We heard Dean talk about production car being his background and getting a production car into a race car. We've spoken to a lot of teams about this over time and the trials and tribulations of doing that, because it really is, you don't just buy a car and throw it on the racetrack. There's things you need to do to make it a race car, and you get no help from the manufacturers. It's pretty much do it yourself.
Yeah, look, I guess there is some help. The Lotus have got the Sport, the 350 Exige Sport. BMW come out with their M cars, Mitsubishi came out with their Rally Art cars, their Evos, and Subaru come out with their STI cars, and Volkswagen come out with their VW Motorsport cars. So yes, there is an assistance there, but it's more an assistance to buy a car than it is to go racing with it, because the first thing you do is you take the shock absorbers out and you put in a set of racing shock absorbers. You take out the standard brake pads and you invest into what's going to be the best for brake pad at high temps, not like you're ever going to see on the road. The brake pedal can disappear to the floor around a racetrack with standard brake pads on just about any car within 2 or 3 laps. So you need to work that out. Once you've worked out the pad compound, then you've got to work out the disc that's going to hang in there, because they glow red hot, crack, break. Next time you put your foot on the pedal, you smash a brake disc all over the place. It's down to Greg Rust in pit lane.
I've just cornered Shane Smolin because we're watching this very lively battle, which continues on screen here now. And it's like this pit garage has a foot in both camps. There's cheering for each side, is that right?
There's a bit of a conflict here. Our team manager is actually the co-driver of the Evo that's chasing us down. And they're both sort of getting a little closer to our sister car in Jordan Cox. So we're getting basically our entire team in one screenshot, which is great.
Fantastic. Good start for you guys. Everything travelling okay so far?
Yeah, no, all steady she goes. So obviously we hope this helps drive us forward. This little bit of a duel that's going on here, and we'll just settle in and have a good 4 hours.
Cool. You're suited up, ready to go. Can you give us a sense of the rough plan at least and how you'll tackle this one?
Yeah, well, the rough plan is that I could be hopping anywhere from about now. I'll be doing a long middle stint, rushing to a flight to head off to Europe, and Tom will be finishing the race. So we're waiting for any safety car from now. I'm in.
All right, what part of Europe are you off to?
Off to Rome tonight.
Half your luck. Righto, goodbye. No, we're done talking to you.
Geez, yeah, why not?
Yeah,
Rome.
get on a plane.
Or Melbourne.
Go to Rome. Say to go to the Trevi Fountain for me. Good luck to Shane Swallen.
What a great bloke he is.
Oh, he is, and his years with Porsches and stuff like that. He's done a great job and a handy set of hands and feet to bolt into a production car as well.
Good to see him have a couple of drives with Porsche this year as well through the
Pro-Am.
Cup. Yeah, he did in the Pro-Am.
Yeah, it was
Which
good.
is fantastic. Let's have a look at some of the highlights so far from the first half an hour of this race. And it was a great start for the Lotuses. They got out, but a fantastic start for Bob Pearson, who moved himself straight up into fourth place, and in doing so, got a flat.
Yeah, it only lasted sort of one corner, wasn't it, before he started to get out of the throttle and trying to work out what had happened. But these two went side by side initially, and Tony D'Alberto went right. We've done that. We've survived turns 1, 2, and 3. Let's settle things down here. The guys behind, not so settled. 2 lockups from this car. That was the first one. That was a big one, big front lockup. Don't want to do that early in the race. That's hurt the tyre, and that'll hurt their strategy come some point when they come in and they look at the tyres and they go, yep, that one's torched, as is that one. Off they'll go, and probably they may not have had to have done. Here was the position change, and it hasn't gone back. This is 5th going through to 4th. The number 1 getting through on the number 23. Last year's champions. And they remain in 4th place. Lost a bit of touch with the leaders. They're 25 seconds away from Ryan Simpson at this point in time, but they're really ringing the necks of these BMWs, and I think they've sort of worked out how hard they can drive these cars now. After the Bathurst 6 hour, they've sort of got a handle on the fact that, yeah, let's wring its neck. That likes it, let's go.
4 hours of racing for the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series today. Their only race for the weekend. We are 3 hours and 34 left on the clock, so 26 minutes down. And we're starting to get a little bit of a settled field now. With Ryan Simpson up the front, a 5-second gap between himself and Tony D'Alberto in 2nd place.
There's a settled field, but these 2 team cars are the ones that are providing the entertainment at the moment, aren't they?
Cox, Muller and Miller.
Yes. The run up to the top complex here with the CXC Global number 10, Jack Miller. There's the leaderboard, and that's what Lotus wanted to read, wasn't it, in the Morris Finance leaderboard? Lotus Exige 350 Sport times 3 in positions 1, 2, and 3.
Equals a lot of money.
It does, yes, but wow, they're racing them. Good on them. And car number 1, the BMW M4 in position number 4. So, Simply Sports Cars, the importer of the Lotus product here in Australia, is what's behind the car that's 2nd on the road at the moment, Tony D'Alberto. So they've seen the worth of getting this product out there racing. And you know, when a distributor or a manufacturer gets involved, it's only for one reason.
Here's a good battle too for D-Class on screen at the moment. For Lewis and Walsh battling for 19th and 20th respectively, currently 2nd and 3rd in their category. Oliver Shannon in the car he shares with Justin Rougier. The 86 is the leader currently in Class D.
Class E this weekend, we've got 3 contenders in there. Chem Usul, Jimmy Vernon and James Brock. Of course, Jimmy Vernon off the back of a win in the Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge yesterday. His first round win for the year. Unfortunately, it was all too late to arrest the championship away from Simon Fallon and Cooper Murray, who ultimately got home in 2nd place. But what a battle in that class. Car in the lane now, that's the Mazda 3.
Lee Naylor.
Yes, of Lee Naylor. One of the ex-Osborne Motorsport Mazda 3s. Class C car. And away it goes. It's down to Cam in pit lane.
Yeah, the battery terminal, guys. There was one. I couldn't see whether it was the power or the earth, but one of them had actually come off on the Naylor entry, so he's now back out on track.
That'll do it all the time.
Yeah, Yeah, how does that rattle loose? You do them up FT every time you do them. It's an interesting one. I've never heard a battery terminal coming loose. Maybe that, or Cam was confused as what he was actually looking at.
No, Cam's seasoned.
Ryan Simpson leading the way on the Morris Finance leaderboard. Tony D'Alberto and Jake Camilleri, welcome back to the Australian Production Car Championships after taking numerous of his own in Class C, I think it was, in the Mazda MPS and the Mazda 3 before that. Very handy man to have on board with Adam Hargraves. They've recently taken on that car from Tony Orford. Tony and Kyle Orford did a really strong job at Winton, and in the meantime have sold that car on. And Jake Camilleri doing the co-driving role at the moment at the wheel of that Lotus, doing a really strong job. Never seen it before this weekend.
Love seeing the difference between the little Lotus and the big Commodore right behind it. It is
graphic.
It's
isn't it? It is graphic just to watch.
David and Goliath stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. Ryan Simpson doing what Ryan Simpson does absolutely best out there at the moment.
Just drives fast.
Yeah. Get out there. Don't make any mistakes, mate. You know he won't. It's almost like you don't have to say it to him.
Keeping that 5-second margin between himself and Tony D'Alberto, that has been the case for probably the last 6 to 8 laps. There's Tony D'Alberto in the green Just Cuts Lotus. Doing a great job again today, just keeping themselves in contention and knowing that they're only one safety car away from being put right behind the front Lotus. Just keep yourself up there. Jake Camilleri now a further 10 seconds behind in third place. Grant Sherrin and Tim Lay making up our top 5.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Tony. The Class A cars and Class A2 cars, and to a lesser extent the Class B cars, have to stay on the lead lap. Because if there is a safety car, it all comes back to you. If you drop off the lead lap, it gets away from you. And each time that happens, it gets away from you again.
Well, funny you mentioned that, because every car up to Nathan Callahan, which is the A2 class, has been lapped already by our leaders. All the rest of the cars that aren't lapped are all A1s. Having said that, the Cavic car has just been lapped as well, the Evo 10. So there's one A car that they've knocked off. And one would expect that, having a look at the timesheets, the Hadron Morel car is probably the next one on the list, with only a couple of seconds away, Ryan Simpson from catching him.
Brad Woods and Hadron Morel in the Lotus 1M. Brad Woods is certainly acquitting himself very well in this year's title. There's the number 29 on screen. That's Jordan Cox. The guy I mentioned has got most of the under 2 litre improved production lap records around. In fact, really burst onto the scene in Australian motorsport when he had a exceptionally strong weekend in the support race for the Clipsal 500. George Karadimas leading B1 there in the turbocharged Falcon Sprint. Bit of Aussie muscle there in contention. George Karadimas has got none other than Alan Heaphy calling the shots in the garage this weekend. That's a really good get for George. And we look back down from B1 to C, and it's being led by Blake Orban. The Bathurst outfit, Class D by Oliver Shannon, the number 88, who is right behind Orban in their McGahn. And then Class E is Kem Usul in the Pulsar, the blue Pulsar out on.
And we spoke briefly about the size difference between these cars, especially the Lotus and some of the bigger cars. We remember at Sandown earlier this year, where it was the Karadimas Falcon that had the Lotus Exige go around the outside of it, and George didn't see it at the time and effectively ran over it. Yeah, totally sight unseen. Let's head down to Cameron and pit lane, Cam.
Well, guys, I thought I'd grab Elliot Barber and have a bit of a chat with him about how the car's going at the moment, firstly, and some strategies. Now, Elliot, 2 stops, 3 stops, what are we expecting to see from you?
We'll have to do 2, just purely on fuel. But I think throughout the race, there'll be more stops than what people think they can do, because our car's been brilliant on tyres all year, and after 4 laps after practice, we're like using a lot more tyre than anywhere else. So I think with the temperatures today and how hard the cars are getting pushed through the long loaded corners, people are going to be stopping more than they think for probably right fronts and rear tyres, depending on what configuration your car is. But I think it'll be mixed up. I think there'll be more stops than what people are anticipating.
So you think the race pace is a bit hotter than was anticipated?
I don't think it's so much the pace. I just think, temperature today, and for whatever reason, I know at the supercar event, tyre deg was pretty big here as well, and we've just found on our car, which has been perfect on tyres all year, it's chewing up a lot more tyre here, so I reckon there's going to be more tyres put on.
Now, in terms of management at this part of the race, what are the instructions to your main driver? Is he the main driver, or are you the co-driver?
No, I'm definitely the co-driver. JB, well, he started on fresh boots, so he'll push as hard as he can until he starts to feel like he's damaging the tyre, and obviously he'll just drive to a number. And for me, we don't want to change the tyre if we don't have to, so I'm just going to try and jump in and keep that right front on if we can, and just drive it as quick as I can without tearing it off. So we'll see what happens.
All right, thanks for that, Elliot. Now, guys, you heard it here. Elliot Barber saying we may see some tyre failures to the back end of this race.
All right.
Well, last year we saw the M4 of the Shannons get in a bit of strife with tyres here. They've developed the car.
1-hour races.
Yeah, they've developed that car a little bit further now. So those cars low on development, let's say the 3 cars right across the front of this race at the moment, a little bit low on development, that's where they're going to be starting to push the envelope. They haven't taken them this distance yet. So it's going to be a bit of a wait and see for that game. No one's going to do a test day and simulate these kind of race conditions. It's just financially not viable, but they'll do it live in this race and realise where they're at. I think these teams are some pretty clever operators in these teams, and they'll take calculated risks. We've spoken about Dean Lilly until we're blue in the face. So that's a risk they're taking. The guys at Simply Sports Cars are going to do the same, and Jake Camilleri will have brought some of his very clever guys along to here this weekend, and they'll have worked out what that calculated risk is, what they're actually prepared to take it to.
It's a good little battle, this one on screen at the moment. Jordan Cox and also Jason Miller. Jason Miller in the Evo 10, Jordan Cox in the BMW 135i. And they've been going at it for a fair few laps now. That margin just on a quarter of a second between the two of them. Shane Smollen suited up and ready to go, as he said, could go at any time. So will the safety car period be the cause of that, or will it be a time elapse for them? We're now coming down to 3:23 remaining, so you'd probably think that an hour might be around about the stint that they go for the first time round.
Just having a look now at Class D. Matt Thulis there in the Mini has been passed by the Conroy Motorsport pilot there in the number 84, which is Jason Walsh. Tony, I've just accidentally stumbled across the Bureau of Meteorology radar looking out over there. There was a bit of forecast for some rain. We're in that Horsley Park region as well. There is some cloud about with rain in it, but it might just be a sprinkle at the very most at this point in time. But I'm going to shut that down and come back to it in a couple of hours.
So look at what's happened here on screen. That is a Karadimas car.
George at the wheel.
Pirouette.
Yep.
All clear though, no dramas. As we see a lot of drivers now starting to get gear on and get ready for their stint. So we'll probably start to see cars coming into the lane, I would have thought, maybe in the next 10 to 15 minutes. It'll get pretty busy down there. Once again, this battle continues between Jordan Cox and Jason Miller. Just unable to find a way past Jason Miller.
And using up a fair bit of car too, by the way, he's sliding it around there. He may want to have one last lunge at this and try and make it stick. Otherwise, just leave it for a couple of laps and allow the tyre just to have a little bit of a rest. Looks to the inside now. Of course, the four-wheel drive car can hang on just a little bit easier on turn-in. Here we go, under brakes. There it is. He's set him up. Will the BMW be able to do the old switcheroo on the exit? Yes, it will.
Who's got the power?
I'm going to say the Beamer.
Or the Evo. It's a good drag.
Well, the Evo's got the inside running for the top of the track, but no, the BMW runs away.
Now you get really frustrated. Jason Miller. That would have upset him no end.
Yeah, he's done enough of this sort of racing to know that you don't throw it all away in these incidences, and if the car's not right, you know, if you're starting to feel like the temp gauge is going up, and that's the killer in these turbo cars. If he looks down and the temperature gauge has gone into alarm, get out of it. Let him go away, pull out into some air, let it flow through the radiator. Look at that. That is not cool. That gives you motion sickness, that sort of thing. But in the end, it's going to give him the place on the road in the Stoke Skis Evo 10. Again, he runs wide. Can the BMW do the switchback again? No. But that's the advantage of the four-wheel drive right there, being able to just run that little bit deep because you can hang the mid-corner a little bit more as we go down to Greg Rust in pit lane.
Boys, the car that's currently running 9th in this race, car 38, the BMW, just as it came by last time, the crew radioed and said, pit this time, pit this time. So Shane Smolin is on standby. Expect the BMW in very soon.
Wow, okay. So that's going early. 40 minutes in. And let's watch closely what they do before they put Shane Smolin in. I guess we know that strategy. Shane's got to get on an aeroplane and head to Rome for the week. So get in the car.
Get the stint done.
I tell you what, though, you'd get the stint done and then probably sleep all the way to Rome after that. Be exhausted, yeah. Nothing else to do. What did you do last weekend? Did a bit of car racing and went to Rome. As you do.
Thomas Miller in that car that we speak about, the 38s BMW 1M. Expect to see him come into pit lane very, very shortly. Shane Smolin ready to go as we have a look at the BMW M3 that is shared by Beric Linton and Tim Lay, who's in it at the moment. And behind him, Tim Lay still trying to catch Grant Sherrin in front. 2-second gap for 4th and 5th.
Just in the back of shot is Jem Usil, who's leading Class E at the moment over Jimmy Vernon and James Brock. Here's the car getting ready for Shane Smolin to get on board. Here goes Muller, driver assistant rather than the co-driver helping out. It's a lot more difficult than it looks when you've got a helmet on with a chin strap.
Yeah.
You just actually cannot see down there. And a HANS device. It just gets so difficult with these modern safety mechanisms.
Bob Pearson in for a stop as well. That's happening just behind the Muller-Smolin car. And it looks like a driver change as well as Rick Bates makes his way around to the side of the car. So Bob will jump out, Rick will jump in. Shane Smolin's jumped in here. Radio connects and they'll be ready to go in just 2 seconds.
Radio and drink tube going in. And that will become very important if he's going to go long in this middle stint, Shane Smolin. Away he goes. Well done. All crew safely over that red control line in pit lane. I'll get pinged massively if the crew is out over that line. So better to be safe than sorry and take that extra half a second to check to make sure everyone is out and over the line. Back into the race goes number 38 now with Shane Smolin at the wheel, and the number 33, Rick Bates at the wheel now.
Talking to Bob Pearson, mate.
So Ryan Simpson remains our leader ahead of Tony D'Alberto, Jake Camilleri, and then Grant Sherrin in 4th place, some 46 seconds off the leader. As we see Greg Rust down in pit lane. You there, Rusty?
I thought we'd try and clear up just what happened at the start, because obviously that was an unscheduled stop for Bob Pearson. There was some contact, you feel?
Yeah, Beric gave me a touch-up and turned to rip the valve out of the wheel.
The rest of the car is okay, Bob, once you change the tyre?
Yeah, all good, just delayed us a bit, that's all.
And now that Rick's behind the wheel, will you leave him in for a good stint, or what's the plan here?
Oh, well, I'll go in after him, and then I'll leave him in for the long last one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bob Pearson there. We should clarify too, it wasn't Beric Linton,
It's Tim Lay.
it was Tim Lay who was driving at that time.
There's the Morris Finance leaderboard as far as vehicles are concerned. The car 7, Lotus Exige 350, leading the same car in number 10 and the same car in number 5. And then the BMW M4 in 4th position. So all A1 class cars, as Greg Rust has more from the lane.
Just one thing I noticed before I warmed it up and had a quick chat with Bob Pearson there before too, guys, is that they did adjust the pressures in the rear tyres of car 38 just before Shane Smolin set off before, and the feeling from the team is that they were a fraction too high at the start of that race. So a repressure for the 38 before they let Shane Smolin out.
So incoming tyres over-pressured, maybe why they jumped on early. We do know that there is pressure to get Shane away from the track as well, but certainly if they're over-pressured, they'll be tearing him up, and they drop that back down to normalise that a little bit. It'll come back up during the course of the race, but being over-pressured, it'll be like running on steel tyres. Very, very loose indeed.
Everyone's under pressure, Naz.
Everyone's under pressure, Tone, that's
As
for sure.
George Carradines is as well, as he sees this lead car of Ryan Simpson go past him for a second time now, 2 laps down, is the big Ford Falcon. Shane Smolin, the next target for Ryan Simpson.
Does look big next to the Lotus, doesn't it? Yeah, at Sandown we did have that. I didn't see you, mate. You were hidden under my door level in the, with the Falcon.
Is Ryan Simpson coming up to the 38 now? Tyre pressures or not, Shane Smolin ain't going to have any way of stopping Ryan Simpson going past him in a sec.
Yeah, and I don't think he'll even weigh in on that.
No.
These Lotuses have got their own show. Tony D'Alberto nearly 5 seconds behind this car now. Then Jake Camilleri is a further 21 seconds adrift.
That's been a pretty consistent gap though between Simpson and D'Alberto for probably the best part of the last 10 to 12 laps, I reckon.
It's a managed gap, isn't it? Yeah. They're definitely hitting numbers. Definitely hitting numbers in the green Lotus, that's for sure. They've got themselves a plan, and for their sake, let's hope that their plan gets them somewhere near where they want to be.
Tim Lay's just had it off.
And a deflating right front tyre as well. That's the first sign here. The right tyres, of course, do the load very similar to Sandown. You expect that you're going to have punishment on the right front and the right rear, with all those loaded corners being left-handers. Car lurches over onto the right-hand side, and yeah, that's definitely blown off the bead there. Graphic pictures of the M3 as we go down to pit lane with Greg Rust.
Okay, so the Linton team are perplexed here. They don't know why the tyre's gone. So Beric is on standby, guys. He's quickly thrown the helmet on. And I think we'll do a potential driver change here by the sounds of it, but they're not sure what has triggered this puncture for Tim Lay.
Interesting. He's bringing it back now and shouldn't be too far away. So Beric Linton, as Rusty said, you can see in the background or the foreground there, fully kitted up and ready to go. Tim Lay around the final turn now. Goes to the extreme left of the track and brings it into pit lane. So it'll be interesting to see when they get this tyre off, Daz, as to whether they can find a cause, whether it was...
well, you remember the green Lotus in the fight in the night popped a side out of a tyre?
Yes, correct.
So that's often caused you know, like we saw on the VSR showdown, was driving off the back of ripple strips constantly in that sim world. I guess you can get away with it, but not in this world, because off the back of those ripple strips is raw concrete, and that's what is going to tear the inside wall of the tyre out. So we'll wait and see. Here comes Barry Clinton.
So Tim Lane brings the car in 8th place after losing a couple of spots from that puncher. He jumps out. Barry Clinton standing by to jump in. They'll take advantage of this, I would say, unscheduled pit stop.
Tim Lay's obviously got something he wants to relay to Barrick Linton, down to Greg Rust right on the spot.
Barrick's getting strapped in. I'll see if we can quickly grab Tim here on the hop. What happened?
Mate, I don't know. I was just going down the straight and felt the wheel vibration, and then the right front went down. So I'm not sure what's happened there or how I've got to punch it. But anyway, we'll get it off and find out. But yeah, we were struggling a bit for speed anyway. So the engine seems a bit down, just seems a bit soft. Mightn't like the heat, but anyway.
Did it give a gradual warning, and what corner did it finally let go on?
Well, let go down the straight here, so I could feel it coming into 1. So I got down to 2 and it was gone. So
oh, no way. You had to limp the whole way.
Yeah. So we wasted a fair bit of time, but anyway.
Hard luck.
So there we go.
Thank you.
Starts to piece together Bob Pearson's events of the first lap, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, Daz. Left
Right,
front
yeah, left
for
front on
Bob,
Bob.
right front for Tim Lay. Maybe he had the slow puncher.
Or maybe a bit of sidewall
yeah.
damage or something like that. Bob had the valve ripped out of it completely. So the wily veteran tapping the nail on the head.
And putting it into the wood.
Absolutely.
Driving it through.
Yeah, absolutely. You never discount the wily veteran and his story of events, that's for sure. Often been there and done it and seen it before.
But you are right, it definitely pieces that story together.
So they've done working side tyres on the number 23 BMW M3, and they've gone down to 13th position, and in fact 2 laps down in this entire process. Have a look at that. Jim Policina all kitted up, ready to go. And looks like he's got himself a brand new helmet there for the weekend as well for Jim. Lots and lots of racing for this guy, and various different bits and pieces of machinery. V8 touring cars, production cars, TCM cars. Does it all. It's really good to see as well. Gives himself plenty of opportunity to improve and grow as a race driver.
Well, it's fantastic to see the guys have the opportunity to do it.
Yes.
So we have that much different racing that they can have that variation.
Yeah, absolutely. That was Ryan Simpson in the car that we're looking at. There's the tyre off that BMW. Probably needs some professional analysis from Hancock just to give us an idea of what's going on there.
Having said that, though, it does look like there's a little bit of damage on the side of that wheel.
Yeah. Interesting. That is an inside edge as opposed to an outside edge, which may have been in that incident. It's down to the lane with Cam.
Got Grant Denyer looking a bit fresher than the last time I spoke to you after your win at Winton. You're sitting in second at the moment. Is Tony just driving to a number?
No, we're going about as fast as we can go at the moment. I think the Simpson car has just got a fraction more speed on us, and they're just sort of controlling the lead, which you expect them to do. It's a smart thing to do. 4 hours is a long way around in a production car, and having seen that tyre just blow the end, that's probably our biggest concern. So we're staying off curbs, not hitting any of those, sawtooth curbs particularly, and I think the tyre life is probably going to be one of the biggest factors in the race today. So, we haven't shown our full potential just yet. That's for, the last hour of the race.
Just quickly, though, as well, Jim Policina's about to jump into the car. It looks like you may be double stinting Tony D'Alberto.
We're not really sure yet. We're probably waiting for a safety car. If the safety car, I'll jump in. Otherwise, we'll probably get him to see out about an hour and a half or so. Then I'll hop in and do the lunch stint and then bring it, let the Rockstar bring it home.
We'll enjoy being cool because it's not going to last for that much longer.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to get out there. These things are so much fun to drive. And that 2-hour drive that I had at Winton for the win was, was just incredible amount of fun. So I can't wait to do this. It's a good place to race and they're good cars to be in.
From Grant Denyer, let's go to Greg Rust.
They're trying to get to the bottom of what is wrong with the Linton BMW because, as Tim said to us before, he was struggling from a pace point of view. We've seen what was left of that badly damaged right front tyre. This is the right rear. Now check this out. Look at the chunks that have come out of this, weirdly so, and all the way down to the belts. So I'm going to try and just wander back over to Tim here and see if he can shed some light on it, because Bob Pearson thought there was a bit of contact early in the race with you. Did that happen? And if so, has that contributed to one of the tyres?
Oh, no, he hit me in the right rear. So I don't think so. I mean, the left front's gone down. No, sorry, the right front's gone down, but you know, the rear tyre looks to be copping it as well. So it's a bit of a mystery, really. But yeah, he certainly. Yeah, Bob, he cleaned me up. He turned straight into me, but anyway, it's all right.
You've been around this game a while. I've never really seen you scratch your head like that before. What could possibly have done that?
Well, you and I have both been around for a while, mate, so I got a technical term from it, but I probably can't say it right now. But yeah, I don't know. We're going to have a look at it. But we were certainly getting the tyres hot on the inside edge of the right rear in practice, but yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Certainly after this many laps, it shouldn't be like that. So yeah, don't know.
The question now is, how many laps can you get, and will you have to change to compensate for that?
Well, on that side, it's the loaded side, so it's obviously both those tyres that do all the work. So coming onto the straight and through turn 1 is where those tyres cop it the most. So I don't know. It's very odd, because obviously the car was very good at Bathurst and it's loaded right side as well, so it's quite bizarre.
Leave you to it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hadrian Morale getting the bad sportsmanship flag, which this weekend has been often for exceeding track limits. It's often for curbs or exceeding track limits. So car number 4 being held up with a diagonal black and white flag at the starter's rostrum. And that has been all throughout this weekend. So 4 cars running wide at turn 5.
That's the official warning?
That's the official warning. Next one is we'll start to take time off you. Yep. And you'll have to come in and tell us why we should let you continue on. So Hadrian Morale in the number 4 Mark cars, driving with Brad Woods in the BMW 1M black and green car.
Is our leader on track? That lead now to, sorry, that is Tony Alberto's car, second at the moment on track. Behind the leader now 6 seconds. So it was 5 for a long, long time. It's now just stepped out just a fraction as we head back down to Greg Rust.
Tony, this is odd. So as you can see, car 20 is in the High-Tech Oils Mitsubishi. It too has lost a right front tyre. And again, there are some heads that are perplexed by this. So obviously it gets a lot of pressure at Eastern Creek or Sydney Motorsport Park. You boys have detailed that. It's an anti-clockwise location. You are constantly leaning on the right-hand side of the car. So a lot is expected of it. We've got a slightly warmer spring day, I guess. Here is a lot of this kind of contributing to it. This is not expected for the 20, that's for sure.
Jordan Cox in the lane now as well. I guess, Tony, what you and I can get out of this is that last year this same phenomenon happened at about, it was actually a little bit longer, it was actually just out past the hour. The cars are actually going quicker, so that brings that tyre wear just back a little bit. So maybe it's happening just before that hour time.
What didn't make it as noticeable, I think, last hour, though, Daz, was the fact that we had 4 one-hour races. So by the time the tyre was just about wrecked, they were finishing the race, and you didn't really notice the tyres were coming off, but they didn't make that effect. The fact now that we're going into a second hour continuous, we may see more of this.
What we saw after those 4-hour races was like a group of ladies dancing around their handbags at the local discotheque, wasn't it? It was a whole lot of technicians and mechanics with hands in pockets dancing around a blown-up tyre, wasn't it?
I don't know what you're talking about, but yes, I'll agree with you.
Yeah, the girls put all their handbags in the middle and all have a dance around the dance floor. That's what like the technicians were doing with the tyres down there last year.
Since I've been to a discotheque, Daz, let me tell you.
Nightclub then.
Been one of those. There's the 29, which has been in now for a fair bit of time. Coming up to a minute and a half for this car in lane. Jordan Cox jumping out, Scott Turner.
Good stint, Jordan. Well done.
Yeah.
Welcome to Australian Production Cars. Love to see you back.
I tell you what, Shane Smollett's doing a nice drive too, up to 9th overall. That car was down in around about 18th or 19th when it came back onto the track. Obviously, cars in front of it have gone into pit lane as well, but it's been a very good drive from Shane Smollett back into the top 10. As unfortunately this car continues to drop down the list now. The longer it stays in pit lane, now down to 14th overall. The B1 classed BMW 135i. It's
painfully slow watching the guys doing it with their hands and with battery drills or with pneumatic hammers. The pneumatic hammer type gun is certainly the better way to go. They've got a lot more grunt, get the wheel nuts off a lot quicker than any of the battery-powered ones. But it's painfully slow compared to a rattle-on, rattle-off Formula One style, isn't it? As Cameron is roaming the pit lane for us.
Just getting myself in the way, guys, here. Jordan Cox straight out of the car. Jordan, great stint, mate. You must be happy with that one.
Yeah, thanks. The old Class B car is going all right. We managed to mix it with the Class A cars, which we're really happy with. It's just tyre deg. The right-hand front's copying a beating. Our car's not quite set up for it, so we're just trying to make do with it. I noticed a lot of other guys have lost tyres, so we're just got to manage that, and then we'll buy our ticket for the end.
Speaking of, let's grab this tyre here, because this is your right front. It looks like it's rolling over onto the outside edge on that one. Is that as expected?
Kind of, because we didn't really get to set the car up as we wanted. We really wanted more cam because we knew that was an issue. It was an issue from lap 5, basically, so we just had to manage it and go from there.
I also saw you point to the team on the front left as well. Any concerns with the car that you've handed over?
The steering's a bit wandery. We're just trying to make do with the car. Like these prod cars, they cop a beating in these races, a lot of heat. You just got to make do with it.
All right, we're only a quarter of the way through. Good luck.
Bring it on. Cheers.
Oh, we can see on screen that it looks like a flat right rear for the Lotus of Jake Camilleri. So once again, the right-hand side getting a belting. Rusty, you're on hand down there?
I'm just trying to eyeball the team here and see if I can get permission. Can I have a talk to Jake? Yes, I'm being told I can. Jake, can we dive in here? What happened?
Right end rear tyre, I think, has gone down. Feel a vibration for about last 5 laps, but it's just a bit of pickup or so. But yeah, it's obviously gone down.
Luck. We'll leave him to get that right rear tyre changed.
Thanks, Rusty. It's always good to get the word from the driver because very, very experienced racer in production cars. Of recent times, he's been part of the Mark cars scene and some sports sedans and in GT trophy type racing, but you can't take away the history that this guy's got with production cars. He'd be an absolute wealth of knowledge and experience in this type of racing to have on board with Adam Hargraves, who's relatively new to the world of circuit racing, and it's good to see they've come together with the Mark family, I guess, with Hargraves, who's running the Mark II car, and Jake these days as well.
This is taking a whole new complexion now, this race, isn't it? We knew that tyre degradation was going to be an issue for teams, but I'm not sure if we knew it was going to be as bad as what we've seen in this first hour.
So we've had a Lotus in. There's two Lotuses blazing away with this race out in front. The third Lotus was that car that Jake Camilleri is in, the least experienced Lotus team in this race. As we see the M4 of the Shannons coming into the lane now too. Let's see what they bring in as far as a tyre is concerned in this race. Osborne's, that's really interesting that they're pulling a tyre off. I would have thought that they could have gone deeper into the race, although this is a front-wheel drive car, so all steering, all weight, all power goes through the front of the car. It's down to Rusty in the lane.
I'm just here with Mark O'Connor from Simply Sports Cars. He and the Mark Cars team are just having a look at this tyre that's come off the Lotus. Firstly, what's your assessment, and are you confident that the other cars will be okay? You feel like this is unrelated symptoms that won't affect the car of Simpson and Denyer?
Yeah, it's interesting. No, we're a bit worried about the right rear tyre, so it's good to see this one come off the car and check it out. But the outside edge is what we're worried about, and it's not too bad. This one's let go on the inside, so a little bit odd. Not sure. We've instructed our guys to make sure they're not running over the curbs and catching the inside sawtooth, so I'm not sure whether the black car was doing the same thing, but it's a bit unusual to see it fail on that side of the wheel, I think.
So relatively early in this race, we've got a ways to go. So is the message now clean, tidy, etc. for the drivers? You guys are pointing to something here. What's oh, we've got a cracked rim. We've got a cracked rim.
Yeah, it looks as though that might be related, so perhaps he's hitting the curbs a bit hard. But yeah, we certainly told our guys to keep off it, but must admit, it makes us nervous because it's the one thing we don't have a very good read on. We didn't get enough laps to sort of figure out what the tyre life was going to be like. So hopefully we'll be still in good shape and we can run it out for that hour and a half let the fuel run down and get our tyre change done there.
Thanks for talking to us in the race. We'll leave you to it. Just before we go back to the commentators, let's just recap that. So this may be isolated. So this has come off the Camilleri car. Remember that, one of the Lotuses, and you can see there the crack in the rim, which may have been caused or exacerbated by excessive curb use here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Yeah, that crack in the rim may also have occurred due to the deflating tyre and hitting something, maybe a joint in the concrete or something like that. It's really hot, and that leaves the rim vulnerable. This is the story, though. These guys have gone working side tyres. I didn't see a driver change there with the M4. We're a little bit far away. It is Ian Sherrin now behind the wheel. So Grant started. So at an hour and 4, they've come in for working side tyres and a driver change. So that we're going to see this twice more in the race now at hour 2 and hour 3. If they might have also pulled the set of tyres off to assess where they're at and go, okay, no, look, we're right. We've seen some failures, we're okay. Or, hey, set your watch for 1 hour because you're coming straight back in.
And that was the question I was going to ask you, Daz. Is there a chance that we could see teams, and I know that they're extremely professional in the way they go about it, but teams jumping at shadows and teams just getting that feeling that because it's happening to other cars, it's going to happen to us. Let's just make sure it doesn't.
Is it happening in Class B, C, D or E? No, it's happening in A1.
Yeah.
The cars that are being run hard.
Yeah.
So the other teams in the other classes possibly running a conservative setup. We have seen the Osborne Motorsport car come in and change a tyre, but the tyre coming off from the camera shot we got didn't look too bad. There's a possible that they were jumping at shadows. They may also have started this race with not enough data and gone, hey, if the others are coming in, we're not sure, come in. Last thing we want to do is throw the car down the road.
Lockie Gibbons hands it over to Dimitri Agathos. And they will make their way very shortly as well. Also a tyre change, front.
Now,
right.
is this paranoia or would they plan this?
I don't know. It's a really weird one.
I'm actually surprised at 1 hour that we're doing tyres.
Yeah.
I'm
and that's
really
what I'm
surprised.
thinking. Teams are probably jumping at shadows thinking, we've seen enough now to believe that possibly there could be an issue. Let's make sure we don't have one.
We went a lot longer than this at Winton on the same set. Winton doesn't have the same load for turn 1 and load around Corporate Hill. There's only really one corner, which is the left-hand sweeper at Winton, where there's a whole lot of load and the car's going to start bouncing on its working side wheels. But here at Sydney Motorsport Park, like Phillip Island, now they're going to have to rectify this for Phillip Island because turn 2, around Lukey Heights, around onto the straight, there's 3 big corners. Luckily, the right-hander at the bottom of the straight at Phillip Island's a right-hander, so it gives that other side of the car a bit of a reprieve. But yeah, Phillip Island with its, first of all, its coarse black stuff, very coarse.
Yep.
And all its load.
We remember only a couple of years ago the supercars event down there where everyone was popping tyres. A lot of that though attributed to the amount of camber that was actually put in the cars, and that caused a lot of the issues.
We saw it with the GT cars as well, and the jumping brands. You're talking Dunlop with the supercars, you're talking Pirellis with the GT cars. You go over to the tyre supplier shed and go, what's going on? And they go, I told the guys you can't run 6 degrees of negative camber with 55 degrees of caster. You can only run 4 degrees, and you go and get the caster gauge, and they're running 6.5 degrees of camber, and they're all going, it's his fault, it's his fault, and the tyre guys are going, they cannot work at that rate. They'll do it in qualifying for 2 laps, but throw them away. That's the argument. And I guarantee you, there'll be some guys over at Hancock at the moment going, "Come on, seriously, guys, let's talk about it. We told you what the operating parameters of these tyres are."
Which I was actually quite. Was it Jake Camilleri? Oh no, Tim Lowe was it who mentioned about extra camber? They were looking at running extra camber in the car. As soon as I heard that, I thought, just not sure whether you want to do that here.
Yeah, well, Tim, they obviously wanted to because they know that more camber is going to give you more tip into the corner and you'll be faster, but you're in every 15 minutes for a new tyre.
As we see our race leader, Ryan Simpson, continue on his merry way.
With no troubles at all.
No troubles at all at the moment.
Yeah, yet.
Tony D'Alberto still sitting behind him, 6 seconds the margin. That has pretty much been the go. 5 to 6 seconds between those 2 front-running cars for the best part of this race so far. 37 laps down, 2 hours 52 remaining on the clock.
By the way, Tony, when things like this start to happen in races like this, when you're in pit lane, This is the kind of stuff that I love. You're going up and down and you're thinking, everyone's jumping, should we go? No, don't go, because we're actually now, second or third in the race, whereas prior to all this, we were 10th. Stay out there. And then everyone in the team's going, oh, but. And you go, no, stay out there. We're getting up to the front. Oh, but.
Strategy.
Did you see that? That's the same car as ours. They've torn up a tyre.
Yeah, strategy at its best. Well, I think you can nearly safely discount what happened to the Evo 10 and also the BMW M3 as being a racing incident, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess whether you stand on Tim Lay's side of the fence or you stand on Bob Pearson's
regardless
side
who
of the
caused it, it would seem that a racing incident may have been the problem for both of them.
There's some other than normal play coming into the race. Down at Greg Rust in pit lane, I'm sure he's following this conversation down there.
I'm back with the Lotus team, and Mark O'Connor, who's been a great racer in his own right, knows these cars well. One thing that's, a question for us is double stacking today. Is that something you have to deal with?
Yeah, we're sharing a fuel rig with our friends here at Policina Racing. So potentially, if there's a safety car, we probably will have to double stack.
Okay. Incidentally, while you and I talk, looks like Jim has the helmet on, good to go. But Grant, no helmet on yet. He's still looking pretty relaxed.
Yeah, Grant's head's much smaller, so it takes him a lot less time to get his helmet on. So he'll make up time in that.
Thank you. So keep an eye, potential double stacking here. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Rusty, down there. A couple of buffheads up here in the commentary booth. We're going to get half an hour warning to get the crane in to drop ours on. Nothing like a team manager with a wry smile on his face, an ex-racer as well.
So you get the feeling that no safety car, these cars probably go the hour and a half is what they're looking at, I would think, Daz?
Yeah, I think that's it. And you probably want to have, unless you're catching a plane to Rome, you probably want to have your second driver with some time up their sleeve, just in case you get an ill main driver at some point.
So 2.5 hours the max that any one driver can do at any time. As we see the 50 coming down there as well, Jim Keane looks like he's got a flat tyre as well on the front. Smoke coming from the front of that car. So maybe another deflation. Interesting.
And another class as well, so...
Yeah, that's the B1 class of James Keane and Dominic Martins in their Volkswagen. There it is now, coming into pit lane. And you can see that thin veil of smoke coming from the right front.
The loaded tyre. We've heard it numerous times. I think we're going to continue hearing it for about the next 2 hours and 48 minutes and 54 seconds that it remains in this race.
Well, it has the potential to be a game changer, doesn't it, Des?
Sure does.
You don't want one of these to go on you at the end of the straight going to turn one.
It's out the back of the Just Cuts Simply Sports Cars WM at Waste Lotus 350 Exige. And striking a great pose in that green. Not exactly what I'd call the traditional British racing green, but certainly Lotus green, that's for sure. Brightly coloured. Rick Bates now turning up the volume. He's sitting fastest sectors, as Rick Bates can do at the end of a stint, although he's the second driver in that car, so he's certainly been in since about the 40-minute mark.
Yeah, definitely put a PB on for himself at lap 37. There's that front right.
You know, the other thing that becomes a problem with these is that the jack under there, you set your ride heights. You know, you've had your car on the scales, you set your ride heights excellently. Now they can't get the jack under because the tyre's flat. And they're trying to jam it under the side skirt now, no matter how hard you jam it. You can't fit something that big underneath it, so you've got to work out a way to do it. So that's another common thing that you see, because you want the car pretty much poised as low as you can. Then when you get a deflating tyre, it's too low for your jack to get under.
Yeah.
Makes it hard. Makes it hard. I've seen big bits of timber are used as levers jammed under the side of the car and lift peel up.
Just pick it up.
Get 3 blokes out here and do it. Oh, we can only have 2 over the line. Really?
Lee
2 blokes are never going to do it.
Hands it over to his brother Mitch. There's a driver change.
Strong pairing, these two.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for some time.
Lee doesn't seem too much of a rush to get over the line.
Go and give your brother a hand, that's what they're saying. Get over there. Okay, here we go. We've got a camera on another tyre.
So I wonder if this is the one from the 50 that's just come off. I think it is. So there you go.
Now that's a class...
that's Class B.
Class B car, yeah. Is this the...
This is the Naylor car.
It came in for not that long ago.
It doesn't look too bad, does it?
Actually, yeah, it's been in the pits before.
Look at
We had
that.
an earlier pit stop, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's...
That's worn on the inside, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. There's a few people running some geometries that I guess were always going to be a bit of a risk. But then again, you also look at that and you say it's going to be a bit of a risk, but otherwise it's just going to be hanging on for all get out entire race long if we can't run some camber.
Was that
and caster?
Was that inside as well?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So there you go.
It was. So great shots coming out of the pit lane there. The Naylor Racing team, Auto 1. Susie Spar's Australian Production Car Championship is booming on. We're an hour and 14 minutes in. No safety car. In fact, pretty much no reprieve in this race at all. It's been a red hot run to this stage.
On a beautiful day for racing here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Just one of the many, they tell me, up in Sydney. Bit of wind though. That breeze still performing as a tailwind down the main straight. Just giving these cars a little bit of assistance through turn one. Wanted or not, it's there.
There's the car leading A2, Nathan Callahan. Big Commodore just in front of our race leader, Ryan Simpson, in car number 7.
We should mention too, Daz, that the timesheet shows us that every car up to our 2 leading cars have been lapped.
Yeah.
Including the 3rd place car of Jake Camilleri at the moment.
Yep.
As our Morris Finance leaderboard shows us, Ryan Simpson 6 seconds ahead of Tony D'Alberto. And then Daylight next.
It's the big and the small of it, isn't it? The Lotus Exige 350 and the big hulking HSV V8. And they really are, when you put them beside each other, the HSV does look like a big hulking weapon, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're really bringing the development of this car along the Exige 350 Sport. And that's a manufacturer that sells a car that wants you to go racing in it. We've put it together, we've bolted it together with big brakes. Look at that big red caliper on the front there, big 6-spot calipers. And away we go.
So put your team owner's hat on for me, Daz. Before that, though, let's head down to Greg Rush, who's got something for us in pit lane. Rusty?
Tony, I've just cottoned on to a little radio message to Jake Camilleri in that Lotus that we saw come in before with the cracked rim. They think he's got a problem selecting 3rd gear right now. They're not sure whether it's a linkage issue, and obviously what compounded this is that you know, with Jake coming in, it was an unscheduled stop. Ideally, they would love to have completed the driver change at that time, but things weren't quite ready to deal with that. So at the moment, he's got a selection problem with 3rd, and they're trying to talk him around how to deal with that. They think it may be a linkage issue.
Just gets more interesting for that number 5 Lotus.
By talking their way around that, that's pretty much the team saying, keep going, mate. We'll have a look at it when we call you into the pit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it goes, it goes. Not much we can do about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're saying something about the team manager.
Oh, yeah, so put your team manager's hat on here for us and look at the category at the moment. And the 3 Lotuses have been fairly powerful, 2 extremely powerful so far this season. We go into a new season of Australian production cars next year. What do you do? Do you stick with your BMWs? Do you stick with your Evos? Or do you look at trying to upgrade a package to become a bit more competitive, thinking that the Lotuses are probably going to do the same again next year?
I think you probably want to cast your eyes across the motoring landscape and try and pick something else that it might match the Lotuses. You know, there is some nuances going to be changed within the rules next year, so take that in as well, absorb that, and then get some stability within that side of things. You know, I think the thing with production car racing is a lot of people are racing the car that they like. Some don't care what it is. We want to win races. Yeah, exactly. You know, we've just had the Veloce Racing guys out there. They all love Alphas. Yep. They're not going to race a Lotus or a HSV, are they? They're all going to run Alphas. So, you know, and the other thing is, you want to try and have a sneaky chat to whatever manufacturer will listen to you and go, hey, can you support us some way? I'll develop your Flugelbinder and we'll head out and go do some racing. It's what James Brock's done, and they're off racing the MG6 and doing well.
So, expect to see a Flugel grinder in Australian production cars next year.
It'll be quick.
Developed.
I tell you what, won't have tyre problems. They'll have big brakes.
This car didn't get a chance to qualify that race for a Cure car, we just saw on screen yesterday. It had gearbox issues. Now out there, though, Michael Cavish and Ben Cavish behind the wheel. Started from the back of the field and has worked their way up. They've done a pretty good job, actually. Up to 13th place at the moment.
Justin Ruggia's had a big program this weekend with his Aussie racing cars. Didn't quite go the way he really wanted that to, but certainly now heading out in the Toyota 86 GT.
He's got the P plate on.
Not dissimilar to what's run in the 86 series. A little bit more sporty, the GT. Just a couple of little more enhancements about it. Tierney Automotive plastered down the side there, not to be confused with the guys at Race Fuels. They've been working very, very hard in this blazing sun here today. There's only 2 blokes up here this weekend from Race Fuels, our very important partners, delivering all the good fuel. Look at that, another 200 litres being delivered down to a production car team. So purpose-built fuel dump here at Sydney Motorsport Park that Race Fuels invested very, very heavily in to make sure that the fuel delivery is very, very safe here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Do a good job every race round that we go to. That gap now just getting a little bit bigger again between Simpson and D'Alberto, out to 8 seconds now on the timesheet. And Ryan Simpson just heading forward as we see Tony D'Alberto head up the inside of the Auburn car and pull away from it quite handsomely. Jake Camilleri still remains in 3rd place.
The Auburn car into the lane there, just off the back of shot with our current car in position 2. So that's the number 17 car coming in out of 12th. And they were leading Class C by quite a handy margin over Colin Osborne in the 31. So they should come in. And this is their first time in the lane. So they've made it work. And they're leading the class. Blake Auburn goes into the lane. Now, that's about when I thought the pit stops would start. And I guess those guys are running to plan.
Yeah.
There it is, no flat tyres. Car's still poised on all 4 tyres. They may have seen what's going on in the lane, and the next part of this phase of this pit stop may be to deliver a couple of new race tyres to this car.
Blake Auburn thinks he's the red Stig.
He's got the high-vis ski racing type helmet on, doesn't he?
Red suit, red helmet.
Look at this, bit of traffic now.
Fair bit of traffic.
There's the Berwick Linton car, and of course the Shannons. It's actually not for spot on the road because Berwick Linton on lap is 10th. The Shannons are currently 5th. So Adrian Morale in car number 4, albeit was given that sportsmanship flag for going over the curbs, hasn't been in yet. So currently 4th on the road. Behind him, Ian Sherrin, Rick Bates. That Sherrin's been in once. The Bates product car been in twice. And our race leaders still have not been in.
And the big Commodore of Callaghan and Ellis also out there as well. Hasn't been in either. So it's done a full 42 laps. No dramas. Berwick Linton in the M3, just taking its spot now. Callaghan car moving down to 10th. Berwick Linton up into 9th. coming back out on track. The Auburn car. Kyle, I think, jumping in this time round. Blake was the first driver, that Renault Megane. So Ryan Simpson remains our leader. 7.3 seconds. The margin between himself and Tony D'Alberto. And then everyone is at least, well, Jake Camilleri 1.7 laps down. The rest of the field have been lapped twice.
So Chris Lillis now on board. Hargraves out. Lillis in, the number 64. There we go. That's what you see with a HSV, a black hat and a black driving suit.
That's it.
Flames on the helmet.
On a 24-degree day.
Yep.
Yep, that's the way to drive.
Absolutely. Lovely day locally here in Sydney if you haven't made your way to the track. Plenty going on around the precinct. Car shows. Loud music. Race cars. Exactly what you want on a Sunday afternoon here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Out in what is colloquially known as the wild, wild west of Sydney.
That music's from one of the discotheque, Daz.
It is.
Anything else?
There
Our
we
leaders
go.
have come in. We've got a Lotus into the lane of Ryan Simpson, making his way down pit lane now as we have Ian Sherrin on screen. Currently 5th at the moment. There it is, our leading Lotus. 1 hour 25 in.
All 4 tyres pumped up and operating. So Dean Lilly's paranoia about that right-hand rear. Ryan Simpson away, just strolling away. Stretch the hands and the legs.
Jim Policina just a little bit more trouble getting in.
Yeah, they're both pretty tall boys, but Jim's
a bit bigger,
a bit taller. Yeah, absolutely. Probably a good 5 or 6 centimetres taller than Ryan.
So once the fuel dump is done, we'll get work done on the tyres, and you can see Cameron Van Duncan down there ready to inform us as to what's happening. So the right rear is the one they're changing first.
It's interesting that they're back, jacking it up in the middle of the car because they're going to do both rears maybe. You'd normally see them jack up one side if they're going to do work inside. And gee, let's get a look at that tyre. On goes the wheel. Cammy's actually in situ down there. Try and get him to chase that tyre that's come off the back of that car.
It looks like they're leaving the right front. Happy with that, just tyre pressures on the 2 front tyres.
Yep. And there goes Chris Lillis back out in the number 64 Revolution Roofing and away. So it was only right-hand rear tyre. And away they go. Have to get a look at that right-hand rear tyre. I'm pretty sure the team might have whisked that away so that no one else does get a look at it. To get a read on what their tyre wear's like. So back out into the field goes Jim Policina. Dropped 1 spot and 1 spot only. Tony D'Alberto now would be wise to turn up the wick and get in some really, really quick lap times in as we go down to pit lane with Cap.
Guys, this is the tyre there. If you look up on the screens, you'll be able to see the tyre that's come off the back of Ryan Simpson's car. I've got Ryan here. Sorry, Dean, I'm just jumping in and grabbing him very quickly. Mate, great stint from you. And the tyre, whilst it's graining, you just held on for you.
Yeah, it looks like it's getting pretty close to wearing out. I heard a couple of other cars were wearing out there, so I just wasn't leaning. It's the right rear that we're having trouble with. Just wasn't leaning on the right rear, and it's just survived. So we, it's touch and go.
And you're obviously staying off curbs as well, because I believe that might have been an issue with the Camilleri car as well.
Yeah, we try to stay off any debris or any curbs out there. Once it gets down to that sort of level, it doesn't take much to send it off. So the pace is good. Jim should do a good job out there, and I'll jump in at the end.
It's really interesting, the wear on all the tyres, we're seeing either right fronts or right rears on the outside edge. Now, that would suggest you're not getting enough negative camber in these cars.
I hope we're all right for fronts. The Lotus isn't too hard on the fronts. Possibly it's a camber issue, but the right rear is heavily loaded around here, so it's doing a hard work, and it's pretty hot today. So yeah, we're getting our money's worth out of them.
Now, we heard you're going to do a 2-stopper. That mean you're going to get back in again?
Yeah, so Jim will do an hour and a half, and then I'll jump in to finish the race.
All right, good luck. You've done a great job so far.
Thank you.
And while that's happening, there's a service and a pit stop happening for the little Toyota. Jimmy Vernon has stepped out of the car. Great weekend for you, mate. Congratulations yesterday, the clean sweep. Well done with McElrea Racing, but you've doubled up on Sunday, haven't you?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a bit of a change of pace from what we've been doing the last 2 days in the Porsche, but definitely it's been a fantastic opportunity to jump in with Mark here in the little Toyota Echo. It was a very last-minute deal we put together actually on Friday morning, so to actually be here doing it is pretty awesome, but yeah, definitely a change of pace.
Mark Griffith puts on a good show in this with this little outfit, doesn't he? And it's nice to pair up with him. A bit of a character.
Oh, he's a lovely bloke, yeah. It's his first time I probably met him was on Friday morning, so to be working with him now is really awesome, and hopefully we have a few more co-drives with him in the future.
Okay, can you just quickly let us in? 2.5 hours to go. Will you get back behind the wheel? What's the plan here?
I will get back behind the wheel. I'll probably do the last stint of the day. Mark will jump in now for a bit, and we'll just see how he's trucking along, and I'll jump in and I'll finish the race off.
Good on you. Looking fresh after those Carrera Cup wins, isn't he? Well done.
Yeah, both Jimmy Vernon and Ryan Simpson looking fresh. Talking about discotheques, it looks like Ryan Simpson could just whip off the driving suit, pull on some civvies and head out and have a nice afternoon somewhere on the northern beaches or something there, although he's going to get in back behind the wheel doing what he loves for the final stint in the Parramatta Smash Repairs Mocom Communications Lotus. A bit of chit-chat there with Grant Dean. There's still no helmet on his head, though.
No, there was.
Sorry, he's still got his helmet on his head. Sorry about that. Yeah, it'll be interesting. We've seen these guys play games before. They had Tony D'Alberto ready for a pit stop at Winton, and Tony got stood down and basically watched the entire race from the sidelines whilst Grant did the job. That's not possible here because it's only got 2.5 hours drive time maximum per driver. So we will see Grant in the car at some point.
And you reckon in an hour and a half in, there's not going to be too much fuel left in these Lotuses either.
Something I've also noticed is they're running with the windows down, so definitely looking for some airflow for comfort in these cars. I would have thought Tony D'Alberto, ex-supercar or supercar driver, they have their windows up tight. It's all about getting the air flowing across the side of the car with no disturbance through the windows. So these guys are obviously working pretty hard. Very small little cabin, a lot of glass, so you will get a lot of heat in there from the sun. But certainly doing a good job. I guess like the Formula 4s, one of the good things about these Lotuses is that the steering wheel is under that glass, and you can see Tony D'Alberto moving his hands, and as opposed to many of the races, you can tell by his experience because he sets the wheel. Yep. There's none of this jiggle, 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 jiggle. You know, they're sorting the car. He sets the wheel. That's how you look after a tyre. The more wheel inputs, the more your tyre wears out.
The BMW 1M with Hadrian Morale in to the pits. He'll hand over to Brad Woods now. Bit of a tap on the shoulder. Off you go, mate. Good luck.
Yeah, Brad Woods has done a stellar job throughout this season and will continue to do so. There's the George Carradines Falcon, which is currently got Jeff Russell at the wheel and Mertens right behind there. So this is for place.
For second place in B1?
Yeah, this is for place, for podium place for this, because it's currently being led by the number 29 BMW with Scotty Turner now at the wheel there. Started the race with Jordan Cox at the wheel. Now Scott Turner on board. And they're a fair way up the road from Jeff Russell and Dominic Mertens. And that's the shot right there. The Falcon and the Golf behind. They're going to chase down this Auburn Brothers racing car out of Bathurst. And should get through relatively easily.
Good time to go through our classes, Daz, and inform our listeners as to where people are. We've spoken fairly heavily about A1. That's Tony D'Alberto, Jim Policina, and Jake Camilleri. They're our top three in that category. Ian Sherrin currently fourth. Rick Bates in fifth place overall. They are our 5 top A1 cars. As we mentioned, Scott Turner in B1 in the BMW, leading that category ahead of Russell and Martins. Down into A2, Chris Lillis. The car there in the big Commodore, he shares with Nathan Callahan, the lead car in A2. We make our way to C-Class, and it's Kyle Auburn leading that category in the Renault Megane, ahead of Colin Osborne. A 43-second gap between those two cars. down in D class. It's the number 84 class of Jerry Burgess at the wheel at the moment, and Jason Walsh in the Kia Pro Seed leading D category. And down into E class, it is James Brock leading that class, but the only car yet to make a pit stop is that MG of James Brock out there at the moment. He'll bring it in shortly and hand it over to Elliot Barber. And then that might just send him back into the E-Class field a bit further. Ian Salteri currently behind the second car. So that is the second car. That is the Nissan Pulsar that he shares with Jim Usel. They are second currently in E at the moment. But our leader, Tony D'Alberto. Sorry, when I said James Brock, the only car not to, they are also the green Lotus, but set to make a pit stop shortly, as we can see the eyes of Grant Denyer peering through the green and blue helmet and ready to jump in to the Lotus for his stint.
Certainly one of the best times to look into that slot in between the racing driver's helmet, look into their eyes.
Can I suggest something here?
Are wearing their heart on their sleeve at that point.
My suggestion might be is that with 2.5 hours as the maximum stint for a driver, I'm wondering whether D'Alberto hands over to Denyer and he stays out there for the remainder of the race.
Makes sense.
It's 2:25 left on the clock, so it's in that window now. Yep. They could do that.
Maybe Winton was just a training session for here.
And it could have been, exactly right. It could have been, did the full 2-hour stint at Winton on the Sunday. So I'm just wondering whether that may have been a dress rehearsal for what they were going to do here at Sydney Motorsport Park. And
maybe that's what Grant looks so intense. He's got a fair old drive ahead of him this afternoon.
Possibly. Tony D'Alberto's done a fair bit of driving himself. Of course, did the co-driver stint with Fabian Coulthard at Sandown, and will have another big drive ahead of him in 2 weeks' time when he does a fair bit of Bathurst. So maybe this is just an opportunity for Grant to get a good drive himself.
This is the battle we've been talking about there for V1. We go away from that down to the E-Class cars. Currently, this car is it's got Griffo on board running 23rd and actually last in the class now, but James Brock leading the class has not been into the pits yet, so we would expect that that would change. Here's a couple of an A1 WRX there for full gas racing. There's Mark Griffith in the Class E.
Isn't it great to see a guy like Mark Griffith and others as well in this Australian Production Car Series, the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series, giving young guys an opportunity to step in and getting some more drive time. Mark Griffith, of course, doing that.
We saw Will Brown driving this car at the last round.
And I wonder whether it might have been Jim Vernon in the case, though, with Will Brown's, because we did see Will Brown on the timesheets yesterday, but I would think that he wouldn't just come here for qualifying.
No, it might have been some carryover data.
Exactly. So Will Brown has been with Griffo, you're right. Rod Sammett, also a guy that gave Will Brown some drives earlier on as well last year and the like. So a lot of these younger kids are getting opportunities through these Australian production cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these more experienced guys like to hand over the bulk of the driving when they get a bit tired to a younger guy. Dimitri Agathos now at the wheel of the number 66 WRX STI. And these guys plug away at it. I love their attitude to going racing. They've paid the entry fee. They've got everything at the track. If something goes wrong, we work until the race meeting is over, and then we go home. They don't just pack up because something's too hard. They keep going.
Is that radar you were talking about, Daz? Just a couple of little green spots here and there around the western of Sydney, where sort of that Penrith type area between Penrith and Blacktown.
It's nothing really of any consequence, is it?
I would have thought so.
Not at the moment, that's for sure. Out over the Pacific Ocean. There's a little bit down there, but let's get down to Greg Rust in pit lane.
Darren, I reckon I've just chanced on a radio message between Mark O'Connor and Tony D'Alberto, and the way he's talking, 2 laps. So expect that Just Cuts Lotus to be in with less than 2 laps now. So Denyer on standby, and we'll try and grab Tony when he steps from the car and get a sense of what the plan is here, and that question mark you raised before about a potential long stint for Grant Denyer.
Yep, well, we saw him do it, and Tony Shebeki raised that, so it's certainly a conversation well worth having as we see Rick Bates now in the lane in the Product Evo 10 out of position number 5. So they're in for their third pit stop. And this car, this Lotus Exige 350 Sport, still has not been down the lane. Both other Lotuses have definitely been in. The Hargraves Camilleri car has definitely been through the lane, as has Ryan Simpson. He jumped out. Jim Policina, the owner of that car, on board now. But this car is very well poised and balanced and being driven very well. I'd actually love to get at the end of this race the printout of the laps and to see how the graph has gone for that. Oh, there's another flat. That's the Product car. A right front flat.
Front right again.
Yeah, and that is, that's only gone flat. That's not a puncture. That hasn't caused any horrendous damage yet. They've caught that before it makes any nuisance of itself. So that'll be why Rick's come in, because it wouldn't have been his plan to come in. Maybe it was. He got in at 40 minutes, or maybe an hour later.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe it was his plan to come back in. But yep, there it is. It's torn apart on the inside edge. So they're doing just a right front, but they look like they're preparing to do a rear. Doesn't look like it. Looks like they're just going to try and rapid fire this bad boy on.
Well, same again, Jazz. They've just jacked up the front of the car. They haven't gone down the side.
Yep.
So one would suggest that it's just going to be that right front that's going to be the change.
Bob's back in, yellow gloves on. And the crew haven't even really even done a pressure check on those other tyres. So there goes Tony D'Alberto. We surmise at this point upon Greg Rust's advice this might be the last lap for Tony D'Alberto. The rules allow for his teammate, Grant Denyer, to go all the way to the end. It'd be a tough old drive to get all the way to the end, but we saw Grant do it at Winton. Yep, yeah, that's destroyed that one.
Inside as well.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Gee whiz.
It's torn off the tread too. So here is our race leader and the only car on the lead lap. In fact, they've got 1.4 laps up on Jim Policina now. So,
which equates to around about 2 minutes up their sleeve, Daz.
Commanding drive.
A minute 40, minute 44 for a lap, say, plus the 0.4, which is another half. So nearly more than that, maybe 2 minutes 15 they've got to get this change done and get them back out in front.
Don't forget, Tony D'Alberto hasn't been the hare in this race. He's just been driving to a lap time.
Yep, correct.
Ticking away. There's a race plan in the background. He hasn't been the one escaping out in front to get big leads or anything like that.
Fastest lap for this D'Alberto Denyer car was back on lap 2, a 1:41. The fastest lap for the Policina car was 1:40.77 back on lap 3.
So each of these Lotuses have definitely got a plan that they think they can do.
All right, here he comes. Pulls left. And pit lane it is. Spot on was Greg Rust with his interpretation of the radio message. 2 laps, they said. 2 laps it is. And we can see the Green Lotus making its way down into pit lane. We can see on screen now Grant Denyer, visor down, ready to go for the driver change. Pit sign out. Makes the left-hand turn, no other cars in his way, drives straight in there now and stops. Away we go.
Bang on the marks.
Keep our eye on the clock and keep our eye on the number 7 Lotus as well. Let's head down to Greg Rust in pit lane. Rusty, you there?
As you'd expect from someone of Tony D'Alberto's calibre and the great work that he does for DJR Team Penske, he is bang on the marks here in pit lane. They have some blue tape set out for exactly where they want the car to pull up, the pit box that they've created. He continues to assist Grant Denyer with those belts. The belts look like they've gone on nice and smoothly. There's a sense of calm from Tony D'Alberto. He gives Grant the thumbs up. We'll wander in while the refueling continues and just try and get a word with Tony if we can, just about the stint and perhaps if he was warned about the tyre issues that others have faced today and just how the car performance is generally and what the plan might be. Mark O'Connor talking to the crew. They now go to work with the jack. How do you feel?
Oh, not too bad. Sort of conserving a little bit there, trying to look after the car. But it's reasonably hot out there, so yeah, it's over to Grant now for a good stint.
Ryan bolted at the start. The conservation, was that always the plan from the get-go for you today?
Oh, look, we can't quite match those guys on pace, so probably a little bit of a different strategy. Trying to look after it. We've never done this amount of laps before in a row. So, yeah, they're quite, they can be quite fragile, these production cars, so you've got to do the right thing by them and nurse them a little bit.
Okay, so some have suffered tyre issues here today. How aware of that were you, and did that factor into the way that you drove the car during the stint?
Yeah, definitely. We are worried about tyre wear, and we had a puncture this morning by running over curbs, so we are taking it a little bit easy. You can see our tyre there has actually gotten a little bit hot and sort of delaminated a little bit already, so we'll just keep monitoring that, and hopefully we don't make any mistakes and we're in a good shot.
I need to look at which tyre. Is that a right rear? What's the one?
Right rear. Right rear cops it around here quite a bit, even though I was trying to nurse it, but it's done quite a long stint then, so yeah, we've changed that tyre now, and that was always a plan.
Okay, you were, unfortunately, but it still worked out as a good result for the team, a spectator on the Sunday at Winton. What is the plan for the rest of the afternoon here now? What have we got? We've got 2 hours and 15 to go.
Well, he could do the rest of the race if we wanted to. Just depends on how he feels in the car, and we obviously could do another pit stop anyway for fuel, so we can't just run to the end, but whether or not we can get that done, a driver change done in that time, we don't know. So we'll just see how it plays out. I'm ready to go if I need to jump back in. I was having a bit of fun out there.
All right, final one for you. Any messages from the Kiwi with perfect hair on the Gold Coast, Fabian Coulthard?
Hope you're having a good time at home and resting up for the big Bathurst 1000. We've got a job to do there.
Good on you. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Well, Daz, good humour there from Tony Alberto after spending an hour 45 in the car, and we were pretty spot on with our calculations. 1:54 was the pit stop time for that car. We said they had around about a 2:15 lead, and there's a 20-second gap. So absolutely bang on the mark. That is the way it is.
I've just got a message from Amanda, who does the publicity and a lot of the work behind the scenes for the production cars. The Denyer driving to the end from 1 lap from now, which was a couple of minutes ago, 2-hour maximum driving time in one stint. So he's going to have to come back in and put Tony back in it.
Well, he's going to have to. I thought they said 2.5 hours at the start of the race.
2.5 hours maximum driving time?
Oh, but in one stint
in
is
one
2
stint,
hours.
2 hours.
Ah, well, that's
yeah.
interesting.
There is.
Yeah.
2 thanks, bartender.
Yeah, well, throw that theory out the window.
Yes, well, and I think Tony D'Alberto was just confirming what you and I thought.
Yeah.
I guess they maybe just need to delve into the sub-regs a little bit over the next couple of minutes to understand that.
Berwick Linton into the lane as well. Doesn't look like a driver change there.
Berwick's been in now for about 40 minutes, so... Oh, no, it's going into the shed.
Yeah, that's...
that's not what we wanted to see. No. Greg Rust is right on the spot there too.
Well, this has caught me by surprise as much as it has you. There was a bit of... You could tell from the way he was talking to the crew, you know, what are we doing here? Let's see if we can grab a word with Tim Lay. What's happened here?
Mate, I don't know. I think it's let down another tyre, but right rear this time, or it might have broken something. I'm not quite sure why they're bringing it in, to be honest with you. But yeah, I see a lot of people are having tyre issues today, but yeah, it's bizarre because the other M4 doesn't appear to be having them yet. We are. So anyway, well, I think they're going to have a look at it and see what the go is.
Okay, so a bit of a day where there's some disappointment among this crew, and you know how successful they've been with this BMW over time. I don't know that I can get in there and have a word to him, but the attention at the moment is all focused down the driver's side. See if we can dive in and have a word to Berwick, the crew chatting with him, trying to understand what the issue is. Just bear with me here, guys, as they try and diagnose the problem. See if I can get a word. What's happened?
From what they tell me, it sounds like the rear right wheel nuts or hubs letting go again.
Oh, no. Okay. Thank you.
So a hub, that's not something you fix out in the working lane. That's something you go back into the garage, and the team of playing that out in front of Greg Rust as we speak. So you can hear the disappointment in Berwick's voice, can't you? Just dejected. We're sitting here on jack stands. We were in with this, in a run here. 12th place now, so they've dropped down a couple more spots as Brad Woods and Mike Cavic and Scott Turner have all gone through on them now. Here's car number 5, which is currently 3rd, so taking the last spot of the podium. Still got Jake Camilleri at the wheel here, so Adam Hargraves hasn't jumped in here yet. So this has been a mega stint for Jake Camilleri. Although he's been in the lane once already, he continues on his merry way as Greg Russ continues to follow the stories from the lane.
So our cameraman Shane focused on the right rear, and as you know, 5 studs on these BMWs. I'm not great with math, but that only looks like 4 to me. So they've had an issue with the studs, and that I think perhaps explains the way or why the car is feeling the way it is at speed when Berwick's driving it, and particularly when you're hooking left around Sydney Motorsport Park.
Yeah, and there's certainly a lot of fretting and scarring on that aluminium brake cap as well. That says a bit. That may have occurred after that wheel started sheared off, but there's certainly a bit of fretting going on there. So moving between the alloy hub on the bell for the brake there and the alloy hub of the wheel. So that's basically just grinding away or gouging away at those 2 aluminium faces. So Berwick's out with his helmet off and his balaclava off now, so that's not a good sign.
Obviously has massive implications as well for the championship, Daz.
Huge.
Berwick Linton was right up there with that car after a fantastic start to the year at Sandown. If it finishes the way it is now, Berwick Linton walks away with 3 points from the race. Tony Alberto walks away with, and Grant Denny walk away with 120.
They're fighting back, aren't they? The Lotus, after not even getting past Friday practice at round 1 at Sandown. They're fighting back for it, that's for sure. A string of results. I think we've got to watch Jim Policina and Ryan Simpson as well to see how they can come back. The gap is 23 seconds with 2 hours and 10 minutes left to go. It's a commanding enough lead, but if a safety car comes out or something like that, that all just goes back to naught. There'll be some cars mixed up between them, but so far, an hour and 50 minutes with no safety cars. This is good stuff. This is the kind of race we like to see. Running wild and free without interception, and getting on with the job and being strong with it is what it's all about. We'll have a look at the class breakdown as we have a good look on screen now at Jim Policina with Matt Thulis behind him in the JCW Mini. But Grant Denyer currently at the wheel of car number 10, leading the way over Jim Policina in car number 7 and dragging 90 points away. Jake Camilleri, the next one in the line, and he's a minute and 14 off the leader, so it's a fair way away. Then it's Ian Sherrin in the car number 1, kind of just flying under the radar at the moment, albeit 1.5 laps away. Haven't been caught out with any bad news yet, just not where they need to be. And that's some bad news. That's car number 20, Dylan Thomas at the wheel, and that is the Evo 10 coming back with another flat. And it's a tough day at the office for Mr. Miller and Dylan Thomas. Dylan, a really good racer. And have a look at this. James Brock, great stint. 1 hour and 51 minutes and 30 seconds. And he springs out, hits the ground, and gets out of the way now. Crew standing there, having a look at it. They'll come round because James has deliberately pulled that lock right on. And here is this Evo 10 trying to minimise the damage by running along the grass verge there. And the High-Tech Oils Stokes Skis entry is limping its way back to the pits. We get back to the Brock car and just see what that right front tyre looked like, because that's what the crew will be looking at. It's why James turned the wheel right out there, so they can get a good view of what the condition of that wheel is in. And there's a wheel and tyre package that's not good. Yeah, that's got some fairly big chunks out of it on that outside edge. Not something you could probably push on with if you really had to, but at 1 hour and 52 minutes, you'd probably take a safe bet and put it away. Jason Miller getting himself prepped to jump on board this stricken Evo 10 that's coming into the lane now. Dylan Thomas at the wheel of the CXC Global High-Tech Stokes Skis outfit. There they have it. The service station Bowser pump there. Goes back in behind the Alum Lube pump. From your local industrial suppliers, you can run your MG6 Australian Production Car Series. Here's the CXC Global Evo 10. We'll have Dylan Thomas out. There goes Dylan. And Jace Miller will jump in. Crew will get to work on that. They're going to refuel it first. And doesn't look too bad. I think the fact that Dylan has driven along the grass has saved the edge of that rim. But they'll send that off for an X-ray post-race meeting to make sure it is okay to serve another day on board this Evo 10. And Thomas, the CXC race prep team. Getting out of the way there. Jack goes under the Evo 10. And away they go to work on this car. And they're going to do a rear tyre as well. So working side tyres, front and rear for these guys. Just saw the mechanic checking the studs there, just having a quick grab of them, making sure that one that may be suspect is getting on. And just watching the MG crew off to the right of screen, giving a good bash to make sure that that wheel is seating on the hub. And Elliot Barber can head out, back out on track, safe and sound. The time remaining 2:05. Our understanding and clarification of the rule is that a driver can do 2.5 hours, but only 2 hours in any one given stint. So this car is going to come back in at some stage to put James Brock back behind the wheel. And the MG Motorsport MG6 heads back out on track. Well, really experienced heads in the corner there for James Brock. And here we go back through the motions of putting on a new set of Control Henkel tyres on the working side of car number 20. As we go down to the lane, Cam Vandernoek.
I'm just grabbing James Brock quickly. I know you want to have a chat to the team as your outfit, so I know you want to get on top of it all, but great stint. Well done.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, look, we just have to maximise what our car can do. The pace of their car is the pace of the car. We've got a little bit more fuel than some of their direct competitors, so we just need to try and keep it out there for as long as we possibly could. We maximise the use of our tyres, we maximise the use of our fuel. Look, it's about the best we can do. The car didn't put a foot wrong, so we're not the fastest car out there, but if we can keep circulating and bring it home, we should be in a reasonably good position at the end of the race anyway.
We might grab a shot of that tyre. It's just over behind you there. And while we're doing that, Elliot Barber actually predicted that tyres would be the talk of the race. Is that something you guys had anticipated in the lead-up?
Yeah, mate, listen, it's one of those things the car is actually very kind on tyres, but obviously without knowing what the conditions are going to be like, this is our first run here in this car on these tyres. We thought, look, if we can get through the stint on it, the reality is it didn't really cost us any time, even though the tyre is shagged. It's wasn't really compromising our lap time anyway. It's a road aspect radial. They get pretty doughy like after about the first 3 or 4 laps anyway. So look, we just got to keep circulating, and hopefully EV's a great steerer. He'll bring it back in one piece, and we just want to come home.
Any possibility that could have been a one-stop race for you, or do you definitely have to come in again?
No, we just can't do it on time nor fuel, unfortunately. I would have loved to have done that, but yeah, we just don't have the fuel capacity, and it just doesn't work out that way, unfortunately. We would have loved to. Almost 2 stops, that's not bad for us.
All right, thanks and good luck.
Thank you very much. Just had a quick word to pretty dejected Tim Lay, the team here at the Bruce Linton Body Shop crew that look after both Tim and Berwick Linton are going to work. They're going to replace that stud that has gone missing or broke on the right rear of that car, and they're going to try and get Berwick back out there at least to get some more points if they can.
Well, Rusty, that's become vitally important for that car now. As I have a look at the championship points for the Jacuzzi Spas Production Car Series, and Berwick Linton and Tim Lay were in front in this car on 274 points coming into this weekend. 207 points for Ian and Grant Sherrin and Anthony and Kyle Alford. Then Grant Daniel and Antonio D'Alberto, remembering they got no points at all in the first round at Sandown due to the fact that they were out on the Friday. They were on 189 points, so add 120 points to them should they win today. That will take them up to 309 and some 35 points ahead of that Berwick Linton car. It needs to get out and needs to work its way up. And try and get a few more points to try and make sure that it has a good chance of winning the championship. Daz, when it comes to Phillip Island in the 6 hour.
Yeah, and look, there's further clarification coming through to us on that rule as well. It's definitely in a 4-hour race. Each driver can do 2 hours and 30 minutes, but cannot exceed a 2-hour stint. So yes, these drivers are all going to have to come back in to go back to the first driver to finish off the race. There's absolutely no question about that. It's written very clearly in the regs.
There's the 38s of Shane Smollen. There's also a fair bit of smoke coming from that right front.
So we're sneaking up on half race distance, and I guess the story of this race is the pace that the Lotuses are setting, and the headline story is the tyre and the failures that we're seeing, and that's the teams running geometry or running the gauntlet on the risk of what may happen. So yeah, that's entirely their risk. They've all said that they didn't quite get the right amount of data coming out of practice and qualifying on Friday and Saturday. So I guess they really do roll the dice, and at that point in time, like a game at the casino, it's a roll of the dice. You win or you lose with it, don't you?
Yeah, correct. And at the moment, the Denia D'Alberto car definitely winning it as Jim Policina back in the lane. Actually, Jake Camilleri in that car at the moment. So Jim Policina he's handing it over to looking at the wrong car.
Yeah,
that's
sorry,
right, Simpson.
they're just having a look at the tyres. That's what they're doing, wandering out and peering over what's happening with their opposition. This is the first of the Lotuses, in fact, the only Lotus that's had a bad tyre issue. The others have managed to make it look like it comes a tyre. So Jake Camilleri
handing it over to Adam Hargraves.
Right on that 2 minute, that 2 hours has brought it in. He will be absolutely wrung out. I think, in fact, a couple of weeks' time, he's off to Spa for one of the long distance, I think, VLN races over there with the Mark Cars team. I'm pretty sure that's what Jake's program was after this event. So this will be a good run for him, because those cars, they run them as long as they possibly can in their stints. And they're pretty quick, like these Lotuses are too. So they're having some issues getting this job completed. Getting another gun. There we go. Run out of gas in the bottle. There's a trip up for young players. Here's the queue of cancer car for the Cabbage team. Down to Cam in the pit lane.
It's on top of the Camilleri Hargraves stop, guys. They actually lost air in the rattle gun. So they one of their joins had actually popped out, so they had no air, no compressed air to the rattle gun.
I know a good place where we can get some good compressors, boys. Pulford Air and Gas, that's where you get your good compressor. Keep your air gun going, never fail. But if the connection comes undone, the compressor can work its head off and not do anything about it.
Tell you what, though, that's been a good thing for the Sharrons. Ian Sherrin now moves into 3rd place in the overall standings. As we head down to Cameron again in pit lane, Cam.
Well, I stayed in the garage, and you said Jake might be wrung out. You're looking pretty good, Jake. That was a very good stint.
Yeah, I feel semi-fresh. No, it was a really, really, really hard stint. I think we must have touched a curb at the start, and I had a vibration and the rear tyre was going down. That's what the problem was. And that's when I think we just got an hour or so, and then we had to change tyres. So we double stinted me there, but yeah, we lost the gear pretty early in the piece. So we've just been running 2nd, 4th gear everywhere, and it's been a bit of hard work. Just trying to keep momentum with that little thing. Steering's pretty heavy in that. So yeah, it worked me pretty hard. So Adam's got his work cut out.
And he just got in before the 2-hour limit for a single stint as well. The other thing I was going to ask you about, Darren Smith just suggested you might be heading overseas for some more endurance racing the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I can't wait. We're going over to the Spa 12-hour with Mark Cars. So yeah, that'll be absolutely brilliant. We've been over there a couple of times. I've been pretty successful, so we're looking forward to that.
Well, there you go. Our commentators all over it. Greg Russ tipped that it was a curb, and Darren Smith tipped you're going to Spa. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
The only thing I can tip you in is that 2-hour drive here will be a massive advantage for him when he gets to Spa, having done a nice big long stint here.
I love his answer. Yeah, I'm a bit fresh. not so fresh. That's a really honest race driver. Red in the face. Yeah, I'm a bit fresh.
Just saw a great camera shot coming through your screens there, folks, of the undulations of this place here at Sydney Motorsport Park as we continue the battle up front. Up towards the, what is this? This is around about the middle of the pack, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We've got Cure for Cancer car, which is the Cabbage team. They're currently in 9th place.
Yep.
So it's Smollen who's just up the road. And this is a live battle because that's Jack Miller went down after having that another couple of tyres thrown at the working side of that car. So yeah, this is swapping for position on the road as we speak now. This is this mid-race confusion where we've got numerous different pit stops for different cars and different classes, but these three have managed to gather themselves together around the back of Corporate Hill for us. Right on that 1 hour and 56 minutes left in this race. There's Elliot Barber in the MG, doing a great job staying out of the way. They, as we heard, James Brock iterate. They've got their own race to run. They're going to try and stay out of the way of the faster cars, but they want to be competitive in their class. They've come here to represent the brand, and that's what they're doing.
So definitely the run between Smollen and Cabbage is for place. The other car there, I think the Miller car, the 20, is a lap further back between those two. So the 38 and the 15, Smollen and Cabbage, definitely going for 8th position in that battle. As we see a Black Lotus back out on track, it's a good sign for it. And also the 7, Jim Policina, behind the wheel there. Ian Saltieri into the lane in the Nissan Pulsar, getting a fuel dump as the big
there's Cabbage goes round, staying with the guys in his class there, gets it up and running again, and that's a real shame. They didn't get to qualify for this, so they've had to, that's Michael Cabbage at the wheel currently, they've had to get special dispensation, and he was running nicely with the cars in the class there just off the back of A1, and I wonder if they've got a deflating tyre, because that sort of looked like it was a clean, he wasn't doing a desperate, was he?
Well, turned in pretty early if that was a drive error.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll see in the next little while what plays out there, but here's that battle now. They've put the Auburn car between them at the moment, between Smollen and Turner. So he gets around. Of course, Jordan Cox started that car. And we're now well past half a race distance. Let's celebrate that with a look down through the classes. Grant Denyer is leading Class A1 over Jim Policina, and Ian Sherrin now, the BMW for the first time in this race, into P3. Adam Hargraves into the Lotus, now in P4 in A1. Then it's Dimitri Agathos into the 5 in A1 in the Subaru WRX STI. Bob Pearson in the number 33. Now those guys have had a fraught race, 3 pit stops. They're the only crew to have had 3 pit stops where they've required tyres each time. And it's Brad Woods who's again doing a terrific job. Shane Smollen as well, doing a good job. Just being outclassed, I guess, by some of the newer cars in their class, which is always going to be the way it plays out. B1 is being led by Scott Turner. Then we look back down to A2 being led by Chris Lillis in the big HSV. Muscle doing a great job in A2. Dominic Mertens in B1 leading Jeff Russell in B1. So that's the Volkswagen R over the Falcon Sprint, the turbo 6-cylinder car. That's that car right there, car number 21. Currently Jeff Russell at the wheel. Kyle Orban leading Class C over Mitch Naylor, and then Colin Osborne there as well. So Class C D is being led by Justin Ruggiero in the Toyota 86 over Jerry Burgess, and then Class E is there's a spinner there from Jeff Russell just while the cameras are on him. Giving the...
some highlights from earlier in the day, that's.
Yep. Giving the highlights reel something to talk about. There's that bobble through that Evo 10. That is not comfortable. That's seasickness right there, wobbling around in this heat. Windows up on the Evo 2, so they're trying to take full advantage of the aero package. And there's the number 29, I think it was Jordan Cox at the wheel there. This will be early doors with Ryan Simpson.
Yep, didn't he have a fantastic first stint in this number 7 car? Bit of an issue for the Linton car. First of all at the front, and then it was a rear that went on them a little bit later on. Tyre degradation happening all around the place as the 7 continued its way into a very healthy lead in the first hour and a half of the race. Of course, Ryan Simpson behind the wheel at that point. Jim Policina driving that car as we speak.
I like the way Ryan Simpson, the blue flags are being waved there as he was coming up on some of the lesser class cars. Blue flag being waved, and Ryan Simpson, polite enough with the flag, he just raised his hand and said thanks for that, letting him know. So presence of mind to thank the flaggies for hanging out those blue flags there with the Ryan Simpson.
As we see Tony D'Alberto in the car at that point as well. Very good drive from Tony D'Alberto, stayed within 5 to 6 seconds of the leader. Disaster for the big Commodore.
But continues to motor on in the Commodore, that's for sure. Here's the race for a Cure car. This was actually for track position at the moment, or actually race position. Got a bit willing for a couple of laps between the 3 protagonists there. Down in the minors for Class A1, Jake Camilleri did a full-on 2-hour stint. And with the chat down there in pit lane, he was wrung out. Sitting down, wasn't going anywhere for a little while, was he?
No, not at all.
Tony D'Alberto drove this car magnificently as well. Did a top job. Was not an issue with that car. They brought it in on plan. And Grant Denyer at the wheel now leading the way. He's the pass, the Evo 10, and there goes an Evo 10. All by himself. The Kia from Conroy Motorsport just avoiding the spinning car there. And back to live shots. This car is currently 3rd on the road and really just going about the race, isn't it? Just tickling along. Yep, tickling along at the moment on the podium. And they dearly like to be the top spot of the podium. Lining it up there, Ian Sherrin coming onto the straight. But at the moment, P3 will do them to try and keep themselves in contention. The Morris Finance leaderboard sees Grant Denyer leading, Jim Policina, Ian Sherrin and Adam Hargraves 2 laps behind. Don't forget the hashtag Shannons Nats and thenationals.com.au. And of course, Morris Finance jumping on board this year at the Nationals. Got the Morris Finance Drivers Lounge here as well. And they welcome other than drivers down there as well. But certainly a great place to get away from the hustle and bustle of the pit and paddock area. And the Morris Finance Drivers Lounge. Here is the BMW M3. It's getting a wheel put back on it. Tyre pressure's getting up to what they want it to be. The Bruce Linton paint and panel operation, and it looks like Berwick is back on board. Wheels being torqued now, going through all the procedures you do when you're in the shed to get the car back out on track. Berwick Linton poised to rejoin the race down in 24th position, and he will be 17 laps down on the race leader, but importantly 3 points for finishing the race.
And that could be the decisive points that he needs.
Strange things have happened.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, we have a look at the 38 of Shane Smolin. Doing a good job right behind him. Also in the 4 is Brad Woods in the BMW 1. It's a good battle for position right here between these two, as they fight out for positions number 6 and 7. Smollen and Woods behind the wheels at the moment. There he is, Berwick Linton, making his way back out onto the track, having been in pit lane for just under 28 minutes with a right rear issue. The hub needed to be replaced. It has been. And hopefully this will see Berwick out on the track for a longer stint than what they have been so far today. Had a couple of issues in that car. Our outright championship leading car at the moment will probably lose that lead now to the Denia Alberto car after today. Greg Rust in pit lane. Rusty.
So Berwick Linton is going to do one lap, and they're going to bring him back just to double check that everything that they've changed is okay, and particularly to ensure that the torque levels on those rear wheels are right.
All right, so hopefully it all works well for Berwick Linton. There's a little bit of unsureness from the team. They wouldn't have sent him out unless they were close to thinking it was all perfect. So he'll go out for one lap, he'll come back in, the team will give it the once over and then give him the thumbs up, and he'll be able to stay out there for a longer stint. Good battle here for positions number 6 and 7. Shane Smollen behind the orange car, the 38. Brad Woods behind the green car, the number 4. Both cars of the BMW make. And coming up behind them is Jim Pollicina in the Lotus, looking to put another lap on these two cars, which currently sit around about 4.5 laps down from the lead car, which is the green machine, driven by Grant Denyer at the moment. Beautifully driven by Tony D'Alberto earlier. Grant Denyer in there now, and a 42-second gap between Grant Denyer and that white Lotus you can see right there. Minute 45 left on the clock. Our class leaders in A1, Grant Denyer, Jim Pollicina and Ian Sherrin. The top 3 as the Berwick Linton car comes back in for that once over. As they torque up the nuts to make sure that they're fully tight. Nothing's come loose. Time not really an issue for these guys now, as they're a fair way behind, 9 laps behind the car in front of them. So it's just a matter now of making sure this car makes it to the finish and gets some sort of points out of today, which could prove crucial come the championship run at Phillip Island in the 6 hour in around about 6 or so weeks' time. Another car into the lane as well is the Cavish car, Michael, in the Mitsubishi Evo 10. It did have a bit of a spin around about 5 or 6 laps ago. Up on the jack now for the Berwick Linton car. It's once again that torque wrench just doing its work on those nuts, making sure everything's tight and nothing's going to go anywhere. And also Ian Sherrin brings the BMW M4 into the lane as well. Just saw that in the back of our screen as these cars made their way down the straights. There's the ride for Cure, the Cavish car coming back out. So the Sherrin car making its way down the lane. Looks like it might have a right front issue as well. A bit hard to tell from that front on shot or the behind shot, but there you can see something flapping on the front right. I don't know whether it's done any damage, but the BMW M4 into the lane with Ian Sherrin, driver change, and yep, that is definitely ripped a right front, no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's got something on the tyre there. Is that debris or is it belts hanging out?
It might be belts.
Doesn't look good, does it? Good to see the M3 back out, albeit so many laps down. So we'll go down to Greg Rust, who's covering lane. Looks like a bit of glad wrap. Yeah. Down to Rusty.
There's an issue, guys, we think, with the Denyer car. So Mark O'Connor's on the radio at the moment to chat with them to, obviously Tony D'Alberto is out of the car and here in the pit lane. They think this is an exhaust issue of some kind with the Denyer car. So he's on the pit wall. The crew from Simply Sports Cars that look after these Lotuses are on the wall. And they're going to listen to it when it comes by next time.
Well, gee whiz.
So what we thought the drama with the M4 was simply a bit of debris picked up on the way down the pit lane. And no one's actually seen it there with the crew. So let's have a listen. There's too many other cars around the Lotus for us to help them with their diagnosis, that's for sure. But
Yep,
there we go.
Just a bit of plastic
Bit of
film
Glad
for
wrap.
someone's lunch.
Yep. There you go, kids. Make sure you put your rubbish in the bin. Not only does it get in the snouts of dolphins, it goes on to race tyres as well. Ruins someone else's day, not just the dolphin.
Conversation message.
Yeah.
From Darren Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick up your rubbish, put it in the bin. It's not that hard.
They are going to change the right front though, and I dare say probably even the rear as well. So extremely important now that this car goes out and continues to do what it was doing, because
you never know what was in that Gladder. It might have been a vanilla slice. That'll be slippery.
Could be.
You don't want to go turn one with a vanilla slice on your front right tyre.
Don't know if that's ever been achieved before, Daz.
No, you don't want it. It's too slippery. Just running a new stud in. Yeah, they are too. Broken stud, so they're running a new stud in on that one as well. So there's a failure. So go down to Rusty.
Mark O'Connor's just walked back from the pit wall. What's the assessment? What do you think?
Yeah, it's certainly a bit noisier than what it was at the start of the day. We did crack a header yesterday. Apparently, it might have done it again. Unfortunately, with these things, they never get any better. They only ever get worse. So it's not going to stop us right now, but hopefully it hangs in there for the end.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, see, the problem with a cracked header is that you end up with flames in the engine bay. So something else around it gets hot and burns, and then you end up in a whole world of strife. So that will be what Grant Denyer's starting to feel. 86 with a black flag. So the 86 is Chem Yusil in the blue Nissan Pulsar out of Class E. Currently sitting third in Class E with the MG behind them. But yeah, back to this car, our lead car. If it's got a cracked header, that's not good. Cracked headers do end up causing engine bay fires if they get any worse. Now, something, Tony, you and I guess really enjoyed at the fight in the night was the blue flame out the back of these cars. Now, we can't see it now because the ambient light's higher than what it was, but it's still there. It's still blazing away. So it's there's a lot of heat, a lot of fire that comes out of those exhausts, and we will definitely stay tuned to that with this car, and we'll try and get a lap where there's no other cars around it and see if we can catch anything out of that developing story for Grant Denyer.
I can tell you what, though, Daz, it hasn't slowed it down, and it probably won't, but 53 seconds now the margin between Grant Denyer and Jim Pollicina. Only one lap ago, that was 50 seconds.
Yeah, okay. So they're pushing on with it. The other thing is that it's not really one of those things that can be managed with speed of the car, and it's going to have flames coming out the exhaust ports of that car anyway, regardless of, you know, I guess if they were just idling, there's not going to be, but if they're at all running at any sort of race pace, even if it's a reduced pace, you're still going to degrade that. Gee, that number 5 is under brakes, troublesome. It's sort of starting to dart around the road a little bit there under brakes. We're sort of moving, lurching towards the corner. I wonder if it's got a damper issue or some concern with that car as well, or there is another deflating tyre, which is giving a little bit of bounce back through the wheel, but we'll hear about that.
Can we talk about one of the drives of the day? And that belongs to the number 33 Evo 10 of Bob Pearson and Rick Bates, currently sitting 4th overall. It was absolute dead last after the first lap when it had a puncture to its front right.
Yeah, and they've got a fair bit of work to get on the podium. Yeah, this car we're following with Adam Hargraves at the wheel is not a barrel of laughs right now. They're having a struggle. This is the number 33 we're talking about, Bob Pearson, the wily veteran. Still one of the best post-race interviews with my colleague here, Tony Shebeki and Bob Pearson, a couple of old blokes just talking about their adventures through the day. One of them just happened to win 4 races over the weekend. We encouraged him to do a shoey, and away he went.
Away he went.
Absolutely. So Bob Pearson pushing on in this race. In position number 4, it's going to have to be some sort of issue for the 3 cars in front, being the Hargraves Lotus, the Policina Lotus, or the Denya Lotus that gets Bob further up, because Grant Sherrin at the wheel of the M4 now. He will be hunting down the number 33. So car number 1 currently in 5th place after they've just been in for a fresh set of tyres as well. And are back out on track. Good shot of Bob there with the bright yellow gloves up on the wheel, turning it into turn 5. We go back to that very deliberate one movement turn into the corner, trying to look after the tyres all the way around. We saw it with some of those VSR Showdown drivers soaring away at the wheel. It's something that you certainly don't want to be doing on R-Spec production car tyres. That really does tear them apart. It's that deliberate movement. We see his hands beautifully there. Bob's serving out a bit of a masterclass on how to get a production car around on not only a fast lap, but make it last throughout the race. Bright yellow gloves. So a note for those looking to improve at their next club sprint meeting or race meeting. Nice smooth action. You don't see Bob Pearson soaring away at the wheel. He sets it up deliberately. We saw Tony D'Alberto doing exactly the same thing.
And for our gamers out there as well, the
same applies, absolutely. Of course it does, I would have thought. You're wasting time. Each time you're putting a wheel input in, you're wasting time. So that's why those experienced racers, you know, they set the car for the corner and away you go.
One of 3 Evo 10s out on the track. Right in front of us there, the number 20 car of Jason Miller. Stokes Guys Australia Mitsubishi Evo 10. And Dylan Thomas, they've been running an Evo 9 all year up until this weekend. Took a hold of an Evo 10 just a few weeks ago and have brought it out onto track here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Yeah, one of the better put together ones too, the Dylan Thomas CXC Global one.
So Grant Genia leads, I should say, mate, ahead of Jim Policina. And let's catch up with Greg Rust, who caught up with Mark O'Connor, the principal of that Grant Genia car and that team, a little bit earlier today.
For the past 2 rounds of the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Cars Championship, it's this machine that's been front and centre of the racing and the broadcast. Grant Denyer, in fact, driving for 2 hours on the Sunday to take the win at Winton. So I thought we'd find out a little bit more about the fantastic Lotus. In order to do that, I'm talking with Simply Sports Cars' Mark O'Connor. Well done. It's been a good story, hasn't it?
Yeah, very pleased with the way the car's going. You know, it's new to us. We're still learning about how it behaves and how to get the best out of it. But clearly, with the 1-2-3 result at Winton, very happy. Drivers making a big difference, I think. That's helping us a lot. But very pleased with the way the car's going.
Mid-mounted engine. What have been the learnings that you talked about before?
A little bit about the ABS. Running on the Hankook tyres was something we'd never done before, so there was a few little handling things we had to get around like that. You know, setting it up ride height wise, a bit different. These guys, I take it back to the workshop, I corner weight it, I get it all right, and then I come here and they keep wanting me to lower it at the back and all that sort of stuff, but not traditionally where we've run Lotuses in the past for all our other Targa customers and other race customers, so there's been a few things we've had to do different with it, yeah.
From a horsepower and a kilowatt standpoint, what sort of numbers can you share with us? And we know that at certain tracks in the production cars, some circuits favour one mark over another, but this has been good at both Winton and QR. Will it be good here at Sydney Motorsport Park?
Yeah, look, we run out of legs on the straight. Horsepower-wise, 350 horsepower for the Exige 350, but light car, so yeah, it's only just over 1,000 kilos, so big advantage there too with tyre life. You know, brake pads, I think we've still got the same brake pads in it from QR, you know, it just doesn't use consumables, you know, hardly uses anything, so that's a really big advantage of the car as well. But yeah, places that have a big long straight, like Sandown, we struggled. You know, the BMWs have much longer legs. Last couple of 100 metres at BMW just takes off on us. So, but then we get to Winton and that's our home. You know, that's we'd rather race there every weekend if we could. And here it seems to be evening out a little bit. The straight, yeah, the BMW's got a bit more in the straights, but we're spending a lot of time in the corners, and corners are Lotus territory. So.
Good year for you in 2018. Looking ahead to 2019, how are things shaping up there?
Yeah, we're all gung ho. We've got a lot of people inquiring to buy cars for the season, so there's a few. We've built a fourth one for a customer, so it looks as though there'll be a few more on board for next year.
Great stuff. Enjoy your Sunday. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Gee, it looks like everything old is new again. I remember back in '98 in the GTP days when the Lotus Elise Sport 190 debuted here in Australia. Exactly the same tracks suited that car back then, and it was only a 190 kilowatt car. This is a 340 kilowatt car. Same chassis, by the way. So it's been a very, very trustworthy, long-serving chassis for Lotus, and we're continuing to watch this car. Of course, we know that they had a header issue yesterday, and the team are continuing to listen to this car for any exhaust issues that they may see.
They can listen as much as they like, Daz. It ain't changing what this car's doing out on track, and that is continuing to go fast and continuing to improve the lead it has over Jim Pollicina. 6 laps ago, it was 50 seconds. It's now out to 1:07. So whatever's gone wrong with this car isn't affecting it at all. If anything is wrong with it, it's watching that.
Yeah, I guess when you just that header thing for anyone trained in the automotive field at home or here at the track will be going, no, that's the last thing we want. We don't want fire leaping out into the engine bay, because right near where that header crack is, there's going to be a high tension lead connected to a spark plug, and there'll be wiring and that sort of thing as well. So it's it becomes quite the question mark. I dare say that Grant is none the wiser. He will have just reported back an exhaust noise. The message back to Grant would have been, yeah, we're monitoring it. No different to what Fernando Alonso gets told by McLaren, yeah? We're monitoring it. Give the driver what he needs to know, not what he wants to know.
Yes. Yeah, you're not going to jump on the radio and say, oh, my God.
Yeah, it's leaking, mate. We were thinking of bringing you in. We're going to have major surgery to do. No, that's you keep doing what you do, mate. We'll worry about things when they go wrong. But yeah, good presence of mind for Grant to go, here's something different. Best I report that in and get the guys over to the wall to have a listen. Great to see this car doing well. Brad Wood's currently at the wheel. And apart from it doing well, this 135i, striking livery. The car just down the road there, the Toyota 86 GT, and this one, the Nova Employment Subaru WRX STI. Here we have the crew in discussion, and I dare say that last gesticulation by the crew member was, and moving forward is...
Tony Alberto getting right into that discussion as well. No safety car period here. 2.5 hours have elapsed. 1.5 hours remain. Everything has been all clear. Scott Turner jumps out.
Struggling to get out there, wasn't he? Jordan Cox back in, and he'll be bringing this home, I would... actually, Jordan didn't run long at the start of the race, did he? He only had a
they were one of the first cars to come in, weren't they?
Yeah, reasonably quick stint. So, lost sort of count as to where his time is at.
But if he had under an hour, he'd be fine to go all the way to the end.
All the way, absolutely. Yep. It's some fairly serious conversations going on here. And we're measuring the length of the straight with our fingers now. That's all you can do in this situation, is caption it to what you think's going on, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I just want to get in the car. Hey, get me in the car. I'm sick of standing around here in my jumpsuit and the helmet. Put me in.
Adam Hargraves remains out there in the 5. The Lotus exceeds currently in 3rd place overall, holding a half a lap gap between himself and Bob Pearson, who's chasing in 4th. And then probably similar sort of gap between Bob Pearson and Grant Sherrin at the moment. Maybe a little bit less, about 42 seconds now between Pearson and Sherrin.
They are some decent gaps, aren't they, we're seeing in this race. Now 1:15 between Denyer and Pollicina, 2.4 laps further back to Pollicina as Hargraves in the 3rd of the Lotuses, then back to Bob Pearson, he's 1.2 minutes, and then back off that is 41 seconds to Grant Sherrin, and ultimately Grant Sherrin is 4.1 laps behind the leader. So car number one,
work to do.
Yeah, car number one's got some work to do if it wants to keep that played on there. We go to the final round, which is a 6 hour at Phillip Island on the first weekend of November. Good long break between now and then too for the teams to bounce back, service, maintain, put some development into the cars as well, particularly those that have been having tyre issues. I'll want to make sure they're across that. This is the number 84, Jerry Burgess, out of the car.
Jason Walsh jumping in as we head down to Greg Rust in pit lane. Greg.
There's an ongoing kind of meeting of the minds at the Simply Sports Cars Lotus pit. They keep talking about these exhaust issues. Now, I'm led to believe it's not just the Denyer car that is suffering from it at the moment, that the Camilleri car we reported earlier, which has been having some linkage issues, may also have an issue with the exhaust. And guys, I'm wondering, I don't know for sure, but I'm wondering, you guys flagged about the fact that if it's in the header and then, you know, the heat that gets generated when you have a problem like that, the knock-on effect, what happens? So remember, they've got a linkage issue, haven't they? They've had some troubles trying to shift gears in that Lotus of Jay Camilleri. So I wonder if that has the added heat has done something in that area that's perhaps affected the linkage in some way.
Yeah, potentially the blowback, the flow of hot air through the bay might go back to the transaxle in those cars. Certainly it's a more immediate effect on high tension leads and wiring that would be around there. These Lotuses with these V6s in them are an exceptionally tight package. They're absolutely packaged in there to within a millimetre of their life. So if there is indeed a header problem and a header leak, I would have thought by now we'd be seeing some things start to go wrong. Maybe not. Maybe Greg Rust is being sold an absolute dummy down there in pit lane and we're chasing a story that doesn't exist.
Oh, there's definitely conversation, though, happening between Tony D'Alberto and the team down there. So something is amiss. There's no doubt about it.
They might also be talking about where they're going to have a steak dinner after a win tonight.
Yeah.
So
interesting to see how this plays out. A minute 18 now, the gap between Denyer and Pollicina to first and second. We know that the Hargroves car is missing third gear. I also go back to the fact that, Daz, this is the first time these cars have had to run a major distance.
Yeah, and safety car free.
And safety car free,
so there's no cool down period or relinquish of the pressure being applied to them.
Correct. Sandown, we had 4 1-hour races.
Yeah.
Queensland Raceway, what we have 3 hours to fight in the night with safety cars, so there was opportunities for that to calm down at all.
Safety cars at Winton in those 300k races.
Yeah.
Yep.
So interesting to see, and I wonder how that plays out from them when they look forward to their final race of the year at Phillip Island in the 6 hour.
Well, all these other cars, except for the Lotuses, have done a 6 hour at Bathurst. You know, the Lotus is not eligible under the current rules in that for that race, so they haven't been able to do that. But the M4 and the M3 and pretty much everyone else has done a 6 hour race, so they'll know, they'll have some data as to what transpires.
A couple of races.
Yeah, a couple of them, that's right. Yep, for sure.
Colin Osborne back into the pits with that Renault Megane. They are currently second in C-Class behind the Auburn brothers. Back on screen, the Mitsubishi Evo of Jason Miller and his driving partner, Dylan Thomas. They're currently sitting in 9th place at the moment. Chris Lillis around there as well. They're 10th. Jeff Russell 11th. Michael Cabbage in 12th. A great effort for those guys, considering they started in pit lane today, not being able to partake in qualifying due to a gearbox problem from the Friday. There we can also see on screen the product car, Bob Pearson, currently sitting 4th overall. Great drive by them. They were in pit lane within the first 2 laps of the race with a puncher to their front right, an unscheduled pit stop. Hasn't seemed to hamper them though, as they currently sit the best of the rest, you could say, Daz.
Yeah, certainly. Let's have a look at the way things started this weekend. Beric Linton came in to this race meeting leading Class A1 with 274 points. Grant and Ian Shannon on 207. Anthony and Cole Orford will take no further part. In fact, that car's currently running third on the road. They were running third in the championship. Berwick leading A1, A2 being led by Chris Lewis and Nathan Callahan. And B1 was being led by James Keane and Dominic Mertens in the VW. B2, Caitlin Hawkins, Ross Donaldson and Hadrian Morale. Now, Hadrian Morale is entered this weekend, but not in that VE Commodore of Caitlin Hawkins Motorsport. Class C by Blake and Kyle Orbans. Class D, Matt Thewlis, and Class E, James Brock. James Brock's entry at the moment is currently running third in class, with Matt Griffith 6 places up the road from those guys. So Little Echo has adapted to the 4-hour conditions beautifully so far.
Very much so. 120 points though here for Grant Denyer. Antonio D'Alberto will make that championship very, very interesting, and I think puts them in front of the Berwick Linton car and Tim Lay car by around about 20 or 30 points at the end of the day, with that BMW M3 currently sitting on just 3 points from the race so far. It's had all sorts of problems. So Denyer leads Policina, leads Hargraves, 3 Lotuses up the front of the race. 1 hour and 21 to go on the clock of this 4-hour race. As again, the Lotus of Jim Policina creeping up to the back of Bob Pearson. That is second versus fourth at the moment. Bob Pearson currently 3 and a bit laps down. He's about to go 4 laps down.
It's quite telling in qualifying. At the end of the day, a 138.5 for that car we're watching on screen. Jim Policina currently second on the road, when Ryan Simpson tucked away a 138.54. 1.15 seconds further back was the car that's now leading the race, Tony D'Alberto. Tim Lay, who is now buried a bit further down through the field with Berwick Linton. In fact, they're running last on the road with only 68 laps completed after they had that hub issue and rear retaining stud issue. The car's screaming now, doing a very, very strong job. And they've gone back out on things. So looking back down through the classes, B1 was Jordan Cox and Scotty Turner in the 135i, did a 142.80. And just looking for where that car is currently. Got Jordan Cox at the wheel and currently 15. Sitting second in B1 behind Jeff Russell. And it's, they're very close. Yeah, sorry, third.
Yep, the
very
Martins
close
car.
there. Yeah, the VW leading the class there. So the Volkswagen wasn't actually that rapid in qualifying. In fact, it did the best time of a 148. So they were a fair way down the field from those guys. So interesting to say how these things are playing out. The big HSV's gone up. They had a look underneath that car. They're now talking about it, getting set to release it. Here comes again the Naylor car. We go down to Cam in the pit lane.
Yeah, while we start to wind down this 4-hour race, there's probably an opportunity to talk about some of the classes, and I know you've been running through the order in the various classes, A through to E, and the cars that we have here. Well, in 2018, CAMS have actually launched a review of all classes within the Australian production cars, with hopefully an implementation in 2019. How they stack up is Class A is for extreme performance class cars, or extreme performance cars, and they've got A1 within that and other various elements within that as well. Obviously, the Lotuses are well and truly at the top of that list at the moment. Class B is for high performance cars, Class C is for performance, Class D is for classic production cars, E is for compact, F is for diesel, and there is also an invitational class as well. But as I said before, as you can hear cars taking off in the background as well, that is all under review this year and will change for 2019.
Yeah, it certainly will, Cam, and I think one of the big changes that we will see is that we haven't actually seen any cars. As a big spin for the 86 has just taken it around. That is the Kem Usul Ian Saltieri car. It makes its way back on, so Jem Usul able to keep that going. That was out of pit lane, my goodness me. How did that happen? Interesting. No, well, he's out and moving went over the blend line though, Daz. Maybe he might get a drive-through for that. Didn't get all the way to the pit lane exit. Just speaking about those class changes that Cam was going through just a second ago, I think what we do know is that that Class F, the diesel class, is being canned for next year, due to the fact that we haven't actually seen any diesel cars in Australian production cars. So I think that's one category that will be moved on for 2019 and beyond. In Sherrin and Grant Sherrin behind the wheel of this BMW M4 at the moment.
Certainly was a movement in the US and in Europe with diesels there for a while. The Mazda Skyactiv program in North America was very successful. Mazda 6 is running in the diesel program, and of course we saw diesels running in Le Mans there for quite a long time, with success for Audi and success for Peugeot with those diesel cars, but they certainly didn't emerge onto the Australian production car landscape like I guess we thought they would. And in fact, diesels are, believe it or not, starting to slip out of the planning for the automotive manufacturers in the preference for the electric cars. The EVs are starting to really push on with the technology on power packs there, so it'll be interesting to see if an EV class comes in the near future as well.
Diesel's so expensive at the moment.
Says the diesel driver.
Yes, correct. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it a byproduct of petrol?
Well, it's like LPG, that is too, and that's damn expensive too.
As the BMW M4 continues to try and make ground on the car in front of it, Grant Sherrin looking to bring down the time, and he has done a fair job at it too. Down to 33 seconds now, the gap between himself and Bob Pearson in the Evo 10. We know that Bob's going to have to do one more stop. They said that they were going to do pretty much even time between Bob and Rick Bates. And I'm assuming that Grant Sherrin's also going to have to do one more stop as well and hand the car possibly over to Ian. As Grant did the first stint in that car.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
I dare say they're going to be back out of the M3 and swapping over. But yes, we touched on about half an hour ago, Bob Pearson continuing on after a really ragged start to this race. It went sort of from hero to zero after such a ripping start, went backwards after sort of the run up to turn 2, and has re-emerged as really probably not a podium contender, but certainly gathering a massive points. And let me tell you, at November, it's highly unlikely it will rain at Phillip Island, but if it does, the Evo 10s in the past, particularly the product team cars, have been absolutely awesome. So we'll keep an eye out for that for their last run for the year, the 6 hour at Phillip Island, with young Aaron Seaton and Glenn Seaton combining in product cars to win that in the rain.
Nobody's said young Glenn Seaton for the last 40 years, I don't think.
Yeah, he doesn't like being called the baby-faced assassin anymore.
Just a clarification on the diesel cars as well, and we thank Amanda for passing this on, that they are still eligible for production cars. They just won't have a class of their own. They'll be eligible in other classes. The proposed draft structure for Australian production cars for 2019 has been submitted to CAMS after being unveiled, and hopefully a decision towards the end of October, we would think, on that for next year.
This is the number 29. Currently buried mid-pack for Jordan Cox, but he's doing a really strong job. We heard him talking in pit lane before, and the tyre degradation is a massive issue for them, as it has turned out to be the entire field. Tyre degradation has been the big chat. So Jordan Cox 13th on the Morris Finance leaderboard. Jeff Russell, Chris Lewis and Justin Ruggier. Justin in the number 16 after pushing very hard this weekend in the Aussie racing cars. But Cal Tressida won all 4 of the races for the Aussie racing cars this weekend.
That lead increasing now for the Grant Denyer Lotus, up to 1:26 now between himself and Jim Policina in second place. So once again, we say if there is any issue with this car, that it's not slowing it down, and it probably won't. It'll just stop it altogether. what they think may happen does happen.
Yeah, look, we've touched on many things. The worst case scenarios normally with these modern control systems on these cars, there will be an oxygen sensor that will sense something and will start to pull the power out of the car, and it will eventually find its way into a limp home mode because it'll want to protect the engine. That's what these great, fantastic, technical, highly sophisticated engine management processes do. So you don't end up with a completely melted engine. You end up with an electrical problem that you spend weeks trying to diagnose and get on the top of.
Geez, I could have done with that technology a couple of times myself.
Car 10A doing a tremendous job again here this weekend in the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Championships. There he is. The car still looks magnificent and poised like it did starting off this weekend. And Beric Linton just moving out of the way to let him through. It's not really going to do anything for Beric to hold up that charge. It's like Luffy out, Matt Thoulis getting in to, I'd suggest, bring this car all the way home, the JCW Mini. Been a few scrutineering stickers on that car across the back window. Get the razor blade out and clean it off between now and here at Phillip Island.
I've been everywhere, man.
Yeah, like a couple of Phillip Island scrutineering stickers already on there. mwmservice.com.au, JCW Mini, Oils Plus inside there. There's the big plug-in, plug-out for all the services for the driver. Goes into the multi-plug and set to head back out on the track. There's still some work going on back where the fuel pumps are. Not sure what's going on. It doesn't look like refueling. It's like busy work in there. At Thoulis, hatches down and away goes number 51D. Look at all the bugs all over the front of that car, or stone chips all over the front of that car. It's been behind some gravel being thrown at it, that's for sure, and Matt Thoulis just gives it a bit of a touch off the dirt there as well for good measure.
Currently second in D class.
Bit of David and Goliath there, isn't it? Yeah. Ranging down the inside of the Echo, car number 1, the Sharon Rentals car.
Actually, I should say currently third in D class, at 51.
Yeah, so D class is currently Justin Ruggier in the Toyota 86, doing a strong job up in 15th. Matt Griffith doing a terrific job also in Class E, currently 17th on the road. The next Class E contender is Elliot Barber in the MG6, and he's in 21st. So just looking 84 laps for Griffo and 83 for the MG. So with an hour and 9 minutes left to go, you'd have to suggest that that's a fairly handy lead and won't grow to be too much more unless something goes right or wrong to either one of those cars out there. This is car number 1 filling our screens now, the M4. Such a tremendous job last year. Had some hassles in the initial stages of developing the M4, but the Sharons got on top of it last year and brought home the championship. You kind of get the feeling, Tony, that the halcyon days of the M4 are starting to have a bit of a sunset on them, don't you, with the way these Lotuses are running?
Yeah, definitely. The sad part about that for the Sharons is it's taken them so long to get it to the stage where they were finishing races and winning races. We always knew the car had the power. Just in those first couple of years, didn't they have some issues in just getting it to the line?
Yes, yeah, they had a spectacular alternator problem at Winton. It was taken out by a piston that came out the side of the block. So the alternator was ripped off its mounts and the piston followed it with it. That was
fact that the piston
horrendous.
came out of the side of the block might have been more than
as a consequence of that, it took the alternator out with it, didn't it?
I don't know if the alternator mattered after that.
No, it was a big ventilation of the engine block on that one. And the similar sort of thing happened that weekend to Lachlan Gibbons and Dimitri Agathos. They had engine issues in the Subaru and as they were developing that car as well. They've managed to press on quite nicely. And
so they finally got to a stage where they're happy with it, and that was last year. Got on that car, went on to win the championship, and then all of a sudden 3 Lotuses come on board this year.
Yep.
Having said that, though, if you take the Lotuses out, it's just a good old battle once again between Bob Pearson.
Yeah, and Grant Sherry.
Yeah,
with Lachlan Gibbons weighing in off the back of it with Dimitri Agathos.
But you can't take the Lotuses out. They are doing a spectacular job and have for 2018 so far. Grant Denyer and Tony D'Alberto, from what was a pretty tough start to the Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series for them at Sandown, where unfortunately for Tony, the wet weather saw his car head off the track and take it out of competition on the Friday.
It did not start, wasn't it?
Did not start on the Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
From that, they have recovered extremely well. Head down to Cameron in pit lane.
We had the Calsonic entry in before, Usul behind the wheel. They have got no clutch. They're able to rev match at the moment to change gears, but they don't believe they'll be able to last the distance.
That's tough.
Yeah, that's hard. There's still an hour and 6 minutes left to go to rev match your way through. That's a tough gig.
Tried to do that to go down to the milk bar a few years ago. That's tough.
Well, it's not a 10-lap IPRA race where you can rev match it through that and just nurse it through. It's still another hour and 6 minutes to go. So definitely a tough ask to the end. And as they said, they'll probably start to smash some synchro rings and it'll end up in tears anyway.
The Rougier Shannon car just getting a bit of pedal beating tape there on the back, so maybe a little bit of a touch-up. Saw that back bumper just loosen itself off. Front right for those boys.
Yeah, being a rear-wheel drive car, there'd be still steering transferred through front wheels, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're up for a right rear as well. Here comes the car out of second place, Jim Policina, with 1 hour and 5 minutes left to go. Jim Policina into the lane.
And
so
also the
car 2 on the road.
The Evo comes in as well. Pearson and Bates.
Starting to light up. We'll have Greg Rust and Cam down in pit lane.
We've got Justin Rougier just out of the car. Firstly, what's going on with your shoulder?
The ribber, the crest of the seat was digging into the back of my shoulder blade. So I felt every lap of that, believe me. I know what Eastern Creek's like now, so.
Now, I saw you earlier before, you looked very fresh and sprightly. That tyre is at the end of its life right now. Did that start to go away from you, or has it just been a gradual thing you've had to manage throughout the stint? No, just the last 10 laps I could feel it, so I told the crew, look, have a good look at the right front, because obviously we don't want Ollie in the car with a bad tyre. So, yeah, the car's really, really good. Managing fuel saving a lot, so that way you can have a good run home, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can win the class. And a chance for us to have a chat to you after Aussie racing cars as well. It's been a tough end to your season, hasn't it? Yeah, we led 3 races over the course of the weekend and didn't deliver on one. So just gutted for the team. Our preparation's, one of the best up there, and gutted for Hertz and all our sponsors. But we'll come fighting back at Gold Coast. Thanks, Justin. Thank you. Cheers.
Great to have the Aussie cars on the Shannons Nationals for 2018.
I think they had a good time as well.
Yeah.
Plenty of racing, that's for sure. Jim Policina still in the lane. Car 7, second on the road and in the race. And Bob Pearson, 5th on the road and in the race. Both in the lane now. And we see there's the Russell George Karadimas car. Looks like George has got back behind the wheel. So we'll see that head out as Jeff Russell's done a big middle stint to get the Falcon set for its run to home.
So Policina in, Pearson in. A couple of our leading cars doing what we would probably think is their final change. Also, Kyle Orban brings the 17 in as well.
It'll be Blake getting back at the wheel. Now we have the Mocom Parramatta Smash Repairs Lotus Exige 350 Sport heading out. Car number 7 not dropping a spot. Came in second place. Driver change. Love to get some info out of the guys in pit lane as to whether there was tyres thrown at that car as well for the run to the flag, because Jim Policina has done a long middle stint in this race.
Ryan Simpson now jumps back into that car. And a big, big margin now between our first 2 cars. Compliments of that pit stop, which of course we know that Grant Denyer and Tony D'Alberto are going to have to do another driver change. Grant can only drive a maximum of 2 hours in one stint, even though one driver can drive up to 2.5 hours through the race. You're only allowed a maximum of 2 hours in one stint, and Grant coming in with around about 2 hours 15 left on the clock when he went out there.
So he will definitely have to swap out there. Just noticing the lap record from 2004, that would be the Volkswagen Golf that Paul Stokell drove. Unfortunately, the team set up, well, not unfortunately, our good friend Stewie McCole set that team up, and luckily that Paul took out that championship. Unfortunately, we lost Stewie at Phillip Island in that year, but that lap record still stands right from 2004.
What a great record too, 1:33.59. And when you look at the time that was set yesterday at 1:38 in qualifying and a 1:40, that's a very good time. Greg Rust in pit lane.
Boys, just on your question about Jim Policina and the Simpson pit stop, they did rear tyres on that car. It all looked as though it went fairly smoothly. Just in the garage next door was a very interested spectator. What did you make of all that?
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on it. We know we've got a little bit of an issue with an exhaust leak at the moment, so we're just making sure the other cars sound like they've got it. I think it's the Denia and Delberto car sounds a little bit different with the exhaust note as well. So we're just keeping an eye on it. We know it could be a bit of a problem to our car. We're just, especially we've already lost third gear, so whether it's got something to do with the linkages or what, getting hot back there. So keeping an eye on it. Yeah, so we'll just see how we go.
He seems to be coping with it as best he can and perhaps shifting a little earlier on the run into turn one, but it is noticeable, the sound from your car, isn't it?
Yeah, so we lost third gear pretty early. So we're pretty much second, fourth gear everywhere. So it's just hard, and we're just worried about where those linkages are with the exhaust, with the leak back there. So got to keep an eye on it.
Fingers crossed. Thanks for chatting to us.
Here's stricken number 20A, the Miller Dylan Thomas car for High Tech Oils, just cruising back in. Looks like all its tyres are pumped up. This could be a mechanical problem, and if he's going to stop there, this could induce a safety car. So we're getting a word is that it could be a transmission problem.
And that is
where
a
it is
safety
parked
car.
is going to induce a safety car. And, well, if he's got gear selection problems, he can't be blamed for that. He's pulled the car off the track. There'll be yellow flags being waved locally up there. So
safety car hasn't officially been released yet, but we would suspect that with that car right in that position, that it definitely will be a safety car that is just off the driving line. And one would think, Daz, that with that situation about to take place, if it is a safety car, we're going to have a massive
run to pit lane.
Run to pit lane.
Yeah, aren't we?
Including double stacking.
Including. And or. Double stacking. There is
actually,
the stricken car.
Maybe not for our front runners, though. It might not be an issue. If I remember correctly, they said earlier that the Daniel Alberto car is sharing with the Simpson and Policina car. So that's just,
car's already
that's just
been
had
in.
its in.
Safety car.
Yeah.
Safety car. So there it is.
Yep, there it is. So get ready, Rusty and Cam, because you are about to be inundated with a stack of pit stops. We can see down pit lane now from our vantage point that there are tyre men and mechanics everywhere. The safety car about to be released, just waiting for the leader to come into its sights. And there's the first of our cars in. The Green Lotus of Grant Denyer makes its way down pit lane. Right behind it, the number 12 car of Mark Griffith also coming down pit lane. And as these cars start to make their way around the final turn, they all head left. So as we said, the leader is in Grant Denyer. You can see him there, petrol. Doesn't look like there's going to be a driver change though. Grant Denyer staying in the car, and he will do the full 2 hours that he is entitled to. Sit down to Greg Rust. Rusty.
Bit of consternation here, a discussion with the team. Are we going to do a tyre? They said yes, one tyre. So stand by once the fuel's done for that. You're right, Tony D'Alberto is here beside me and he doesn't have a helmet on. You guys have been talking a lot over the last sort of 40 minutes. Where are you at and how is the car?
Car's okay. Just that safety car coming at a time when I can't get back in just yet and get to the end, so it's a bit of a bugger. And we sort of lose our advantage a little bit, but we're just trying to minimise that at the moment. See what happens.
Beyond that, people worried about exhaust systems and things. How are you guys going?
Oh, we've got a problem. Yeah, it's definitely broken, but it doesn't seem to be affecting it too much, looking at the lap times. So, yeah, we're just going to have to see how we go. It's just a long race, and unfortunately, we are carrying a little bit of damage at the moment.
Thanks, Tony.
Yes.
We've got 50 minutes remaining in this race, and the safety car has peeled off. We say goodbye to the BMW Melbourne, or Melbourne BMW safety car, and the race is back underway.
Yeah, it certainly is. I wouldn't mind getting a comment from either Rusty or Cam at some point too about the weather down there. Just popping our head outside our commentary box here a few minutes ago, and the temperature seems to have dropped markedly in the last half an hour to an hour or so. And I'm just wondering how cool it is, because obviously that's going to affect track temperature as well in regards to these cars have been running on a fairly high track temperature for the majority of the race. And I'm wondering how much it's going to affect them coming in this last hour if the temperature of the track drops a fair bit.
Yeah, well, it's going to help the tyre situation, that's for sure. It's going to enable the cars that are slightly, questionable on tyres. We'll do that.
So Grant Denyer remains our leader, and there is his car. We look for the number 7 car of Ryan Simpson as we head down to Rusty in pit lane. Rusty.
Tony, you can feel that it is a fraction cooler here in the lane, and the wind picked up in about the past hour, and it's running right down the length of the straight in like a westerly direction. But we understand from the radar that there is no real chance of rain here, and colleagues we know that regularly fly did say that to us yesterday, that although Sydney may get a millimetre or two, they weren't expecting any at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you for that, mate. So definitely a temperature change and definitely a wind strengthening here than what it was. We knew it was fairly strong at the start of the race down the main straight. It's now got even stronger again. So there comes the number 7 car now. That's in second place. It crosses the line. Still a couple of laps down on the Denyer car. And still 3 Lotuses basically in front. So there's the Denyer car now just crossing the line as well. So probably around about 1:30, the gap between Grant Denyer and Ryan Simpson.
Yeah, and that car's going to come back in.
Yes,
that car has to put Tony D'Alberto back in. So Ryan and Jim Policino have done that.
Correct.
They're in their last stanza of the race. So we go down to Greg Rust.
I just had a word with Mark O'Connor at the Lotus pit here, and he kind of smiled, but not in a great way, and said, look, that safety car couldn't have come at a worse time for us, because obviously Tony D'Alberto's stint was about 1 hour 45 before he stepped out and let Grant Denyer jump behind the wheel. They couldn't put him back behind the wheel during that safety car, so they will need to pit again and do a driver change for that car.
And that could be a game changer.
Yeah, they've got a strong lead though, haven't they? 1.9 laps. That's a very strong lead. Here is a really good battle that's going to continue on this season. This is with Class A. Elliot Barber in the MG, Jimmy Vernon now at the wheel of the Echo. And if we cast our minds back to QR, these two cars not only had a bit of a coming together on the track, but there was a continued coming together back out in the pit lane as well, discussing how it played out with James, Brock and Griffo.
Yes, correct. That is exactly right. These two younger drivers, though, maybe a little bit more friendly towards each other. Jimmy Vernon stepping into the car for the first time this weekend. Had a great weekend in the GT3 Cup Challenge, which wrapped up yesterday. The Porsche guys having their party last night for their end of season of the Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge. Only half a second between Barber and Vernon. A good battle for E-Class happening there. I love how that pans out. That under safety car, both those cars were right next to each other. And the battle continues when the safety car goes off. That's good.
It is good. It doesn't interfere in their the way they're going about it. It puts two drivers that have had a strong career. Jimmy Vernon, of course, at the beginning of his. And as you just mentioned, Tony, a great day yesterday for Jimmy, getting a victory in the Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge. Miller and Lillis now, who have been off the track. Miller obviously going to take no further part after being recovered. And the Lillis Hargraves team are going hard at work about chasing that diff change to get out on the back of the track. B1 Falcon versus Golf out on track now, and this is for position.
Yeah, that's for second and third. Karadimas currently second. James Keane currently in third place. Leading B1 at the moment is
Jordan Cox.
Jordan Cox.
Doing a good job too. In fact, how about Cabbage? They're setting faster sectors this late in the race as we go down to pit lane with Cam.
Just another update for you. The number 84 Kia of Burgess and Walsh is out of this race. It looks like.
So it seems like Cameron might be out of the race as well.
Yeah, dropping out there.
But that's not good news for the 84. That's unfortunate for the Disc Brakes Australia Kia Pro Seat, Jerry Burgess and Jason Walsh. Might get Cam to see if he can do a bit of investigating for us back on that 64 as well, the big Commodore, the Lillis Callaghan Commodore, see how they're going with that diff change and if they can make it back out onto track. With 44 minutes to go, it was always going to be a big ask. So the onus really now on Grant Denyer, isn't it, Daz, to try and increase the margin that he has over Ryan Simpson. I know it's 1.8 laps, and I know that a pit stop and just a driver changes, that's all they have to do. And I assume it is. They just took tyres, they took a right rear, and they would have filled the car up in that last pit stop. So all they need to do is a driver change. It's going to be enough to get them back out in the lead. But
it'd be good to actually get that lead back into a seconds equation, because it was 1.9, it's now 1.8. Is Ryan Simpson setting off like he did on Saturday afternoon at Winton to chase down the race lead? He's got more time.
He has.
He's got more time than he had at Winton.
43 minutes to try and bring back, what is it, what are they doing?
Fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, 1:39.
On lap 105, Ryan Simpson.
Look at that.
All right.
He doesn't.
He's chasing them down.
Doesn't seem to, never stops amazing, does he?
He's lighting it up again.
So let's say, a minute, if they're doing, say, 140, 142, as we head down to Cameron, while I try and work this out, Cam.
Shebeki.
Sorry, mate, you just dropped down there, Cam, you there?
Yeah, first time caller, long time listener, Tony Shebeki. Car 64, I'm on Commodore watch for you, and I can tell you the broken diff is out, a new one is in, and they've given me 20 minutes until they're back out on track.
Woohoo!
Good stuff there for Nathan Callaghan and Chris Lillis. That's a good result for those guys. They'll drag the points out. And for those that don't know, Tony Shebeki works on radio in Melbourne and takes calls from random callers like Cameron Vanderduncan all the time.
Yes.
Nothing like an in-joke.
Tony D'Alberto giving the signal that he is ready to rock and roll as soon as Grant Denyer is given the signal to bring this Lotus back into pit lane. It won't be too far away. With an hour 45 under Tony D'Alberto's belt in the first stint, he now has only 42 minutes that he would have to drive, so well under that 2.5 hour stint that he would need to get to. Well, let's see if the Lotus comes around this time. 2 turns to go for Grant Denyer as he makes his way around onto the main straight. Does he stay left or does he stay out? He stays wide and he stays out for another one.
Ryan Simpson last time through a 141.46, so he's just eased back out of that pace. Now, that Lotus is getting louder. That's quite distinctively louder that time.
Totally agree.
Distinctively louder. So it now becomes a ticking clock. We've got conjecture here in pit lane. And with the number 84 team, which was the Walsh car, they're out. this race. That's the Jason Walsh car. Here it is, that battle for Class E.
Jimmy Vernon's taken the spot.
Yeah, it's going to get pretty willing too, I would suggest. Elliot Barber doesn't want to surrender that in the MG6. As Jimmy Vernon, guy in a hurry to try and stamp his authority on Australian motorsport. Make a living out of it if he possibly can. Driving away.
Formula 4 graduate of a couple of years ago, down to Greg Rust in pit lane. Rusty.
Tony, the word I'm hearing is one more lap for Grant Denyer, and Tony D'Alberto is standing by, ready to take over that car. So one more lap, and the Just Cuts entry will be in.
Well, he's just come off the hairpin, has Tony D'Alberto. Sorry, I should say Grant Denyer. And let's see if this is the one more lap or if he's got one more after this. Around he comes again. This time he stays wide as well, and yep, this is the one more lap now. So final lap, we believe, for Grant Denyer before he brings it in. Oh, gee whiz, that's sounding roughish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's starting to sound quite rough rapidly now. Here's the MG and the little Toyota Echo fighting it out for Class E honours. And these guys in the MG, we know, had a tyre graining problem. And this is the Morris Finance leaderboard. 17th on the road, Toyota Echo. 18th on the road, MG6. And 19th is a Renault Megane RS265. And that is the number 31 of Callum Jones and Colin Osborne. Not at the front of the class like they have been traditionally. That's going to Blake and Kyle Orban at the moment. They're 13th. Second in class is Lee Naylor, sharing with his brother. And then we go down to Callum Jones and Colin Osborne for third in that class. He's our race leader, Grant Denyer, coming around the back part of the circuit here at Sydney Motorsport Park, around Corporate Hill as it is known. Under brakes, turns it in and drives it out on the throttle.
Just on rails, isn't it?
Yeah, it points up exactly well, doesn't it? Yeah, just points up, does what the driver says, and away it goes, right up until it tears up the tyre. But that's not going to happen now. This car will be into the lane, we believe, this time around.
So around about 3 minutes, the gap between Denyer and Simpson. It comes in now. This won't be a 3-minute stop, I wouldn't have thought.
Has to be a quick driver change. So they'll check out the tyres clearly. They'll have to fuel it. I guess once they check out the tyre, that'll determine how long it's going to be. If they can give Tony D'Alberto a car with a new tyre on it and the amount of fuel to get to the end, that'll be the ideal. That'll be the ideal result.
Well, you get the fuel done while the driver change is being done. That's fine.
Absolutely,
because they would have filled it up in the last stop, which was only 10 laps ago.
Yep.
So there's not going to be too much fuel to be put in, if any.
No fuel.
No fuel. Just a bit of a check of the pressures on the tyres.
Looking at the condition of the inside tyre wall.
Happy with that.
Yep. Around.
The right rear was always going to be the one that they were concerned about.
Yeah. The guys looking as though they're pretty harassed there. So are they going to get the jack and the tyre? No. So D'Alberto completing that. The crew all back behind the line and being dispatched.
That's it. Easy.
See you later. So setting sail to the end of the race, we expect there for Tony D'Alberto. Well done to Grant Denyer again. Another mammoth stint with Mr. Denyer.
55-second pit stop means that they still come out with around about a 2-minute lead, Rusty. That's not bad, I wouldn't have thought, for those guys.
He's just got the big high fives from the team. We'll let him get his helmet off. Wonderful. He's got full family support here as well. The girls here backing him. So driver change done. We were a little bit worried about exhausts and things like that. Were you nervous? What was the car like during the stint?
It was about 40 minutes ago, yeah. It just started to develop a really loud noise, like it sort of cracked a head or it's got an exhaust sort of problem. So that makes you a little bit nervous when you're out there because I'm not very mechanical, so I don't know what it is. It just sounds like a truck. But it's still trucking along okay. The pace is starting to pick up a little bit now that the track's getting cooler. That was just That was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, you're happy. You're happy. You feel like it was taxing? How did you? Are you okay?
Yeah, pretty tired. No power steering in these things, so my little toothpick arms struggle a little bit around here. But what a great car to drive. The little Lotus is low and light and fun, and the traffic's been pretty generous to us today. So, yeah, if we can hold off that other car, we're doing all right. It'd be good to get another win. I think we've had 3 now, so a 4th would be unreal.
Absolutely. So fingers crossed. A nice kind of, Tony described it to me almost like a conservative stint. Was it a similar thing for you? Just look after it, knowing what the noises were like and knowing the importance of keeping it off the curbs. Was that a strategy for you?
Saw so many cars blow tyres. So the hard part is you're trying to go as fast as you can, and you know you're trying to get ahead of the other car, but you can't use all the track. You know, you can't use the ripple strips. The ripple strips is where all the time is. So you just got to be disciplined and keep talking to yourself. The temptation is to go ragged and go rogue, but it's a long race, this one, so you just got to be smart. So that was really thoroughly enjoyable, and Tony will do the job now. He's a gun of a co-driver.
I know what they're like here. They're not counting their chickens just yet, but they're excited. I managed to chance on a little phone call after the Winton round when the girls rang to say, hey, Dad, did you win? Nice that you've got them here today.
Yeah, I think they like collecting trophies as much as I do. I think the team that races together stays together. So the family, it's great to have the family here. They don't normally come to the racetrack. It's not easy for little kids because it's noisy and it's loud and it's hot, but look at this, they're busting for a hug over there, so I better go give them one.
You go. Cheers.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Rusty. Well done, Grant Denyer, and disaster for the little MG. Elliot Barber stepping out of the car at the top of pit lane and is deciding that he's going to try and push it himself down pit lane. It ain't going nowhere.
Remember when Doug Chivers did that with the Tirana at Panorama? And they were coaching him on, cheering him on, and then he got it there to the line and they said, no, you can't do that, mate.
So where that is, Taz, is that a safety car position?
Yep.
I would have thought so.
Yep, certainly is.
They're giving him a chance to get it going and get it moving, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No one's coming up to help him either, are they? They're saying to him, get out over the wall, get behind the first line of defence. So Elliot is stuck up there by himself, and it doesn't look like anyone's on their way to come and help. Only a recovery crew to hook up. Well, we've got a four-wheel drive going to go trackside up there now, so this is going to be interesting. They're going to come down there. They haven't even got yellow flags out at the top of the straight, so
it is interesting.
Interesting. Maybe they deem the pit lane to be a safe place to stop. I would have thought they still are at race pace there. They're not at the control line. They're not technically even in the pit lane yet. As he's pushing it.
He is pushing it too.
Pushing it. It's moving. So looking back at the front of this race, Tony D'Alberto in a couple of weeks' time will be having the weight of the world on his shoulders with the expectation of the Penske Corporation to co-drive with Fabian Coulthard.
Who we should say congratulations to the Penske Corporation getting their 500th win in motor racing last weekend at Indianapolis. Sorry, not Indianapolis, in the Indy Cars.
In the Indy Cars, yeah.
But 500th overall win, not just Indy win, but overall win. They were expecting that possibly could have happened at Sandown for Scott McLaughlin, and there was plans and all that sort of stuff for a big party. If it did, unfortunately it didn't for them, and they completed it in the States. This looks like an issue as well, is it?
Yeah, that's Matt Thulis at the wheel there. He's driven so well this year. This car looks like it's retiring. He's acknowledging flaggies and so on and so forth around the track, but at the moment Barber is under tow as Thulis continues on.
Yeah, he does too.
Down the straight, so just slowly around the top of the track. Here we've got this car of Camilleri and Hargraves, which is sounding quite ill at this point in time. And of course, this car, the mechanical marvel of the field, at the end of the first lap, it was stone motherless last and went down a lap. It's now fifth in the race with Rick Bates at the wheel. And last time through turn one, it was sideways.
It's been a great 3.5 hours so far for the Shannons boys. They currently sit in 4th place and just hope that one of those Lotuses has an issue to give them a podium. This one, though, just keeps going. It is Tony D'Alberto behind the wheel now. That was Grant Denyer right there.
So Elliot Barber being towed into the lane. We'll get the rundown from the guys in pit lane on that one. But here is further highlights from the race. The Evo 10. There's Jem Usul exiting the pits there. So on cold tyre, I would suggest ran out and dug himself in. Gathered it all up and continued on his way, though. This is the B1 battle going on there, with Jordan Cox at the wheel of that BMW. Here's Grant Denyer again, completing a mammoth race. And here is the retirement and the cause of the only safety car we've had in this race. The Evo 10, brand new to Jace Miller. The ex-Dylan Thomas car, and Dylan Thomas co-driving in that car and certainly helping the team along to learn how an Evo 10 works. Substantially different to the Evo 9. A lot more technology deployed in the Evo 10. Denyer again, and joined by his family in the pits. Fantastic to see.
Yeah, first time caller, long time listener, Tony Shebeki. Car 64 on
As our highlights continue, Ryan Simpson setting lap records on 105 as we head down to Greg Rust down in pit lane.
James Brock is at the left front of the car, and they're assessing what's going on at the moment. I might see if I can get permission to dive in and have a word to Elliot here while they do that. James, can I talk to him? They're worried about making sure this car can finish. I'm not sure. Boys, I'll come back to you. Just let me get clearance first.
You're right, mate. No problems, Rusty. We'll let you do that. They're looking under there. James obviously just got a call on the time, and he was told half an hour to go, and the hands went behind the head.
And also there was to be another driver change. So maximum driver change with those two, and it's obviously not at that point yet because James has got the double whammy. They've got an issue with the tyre, and I'm pretty sure that Elliot can't go all the way to the end. There's going to have to be another driver change there with those guys.
So some real issues there for the MG team.
And there's the Mini right in behind it there as well. Matt Thulis car in Class D. They're now dropping out. It's Oliver Shannon leading that in position 14 as we go down to Greg now.
Let's see if we can find out what the problem is. You guys have been chatting away. What's the issue?
Unfortunately, it's sheared the end off the drive shaft on the left-hand side, so it's looking like it's probably terminal for us. Given the time we've got left in the race, I don't think we're going to get another drive shaft in the car. It's probably collapsed the bearings and stuff as well, so I think unfortunately that's race over for us.
What a shame. We could see even just a look on Elliot's face there before when it stopped at the top of the lane. Is that just the pounding that it's taken here? What is it?
Yeah, look, it's you know, this is the first season we've run the car, so it's one of those things. It's just we just had to suck it and see. You know, it's a standard production car. They're all standard components, so. Look, obviously they've got a lifespan, and we've just found out what the lifespan is. It's just one of those things, mate. It's unfortunate. We'll just know for next time.
You're a champ to smile. Unbelievable. It must be heartbreaking.
Yeah, the car had been faultless prior to that, so it's pretty disappointing. You know, we're not the fastest car out there, but we just wanted to try and finish every race, and it'll put us in good stead. This is going to hurt our championship for sure.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Might not be the fastest car out there, Daz, but they were doing a great job in Class E, which is what they're in, with Jimmy Vernon. That was a really good battle for those two cars for a long, long time. Jimmy Vernon now has the advantage of being out there with this car off the track, but they were causing each other problems.
Yeah, they were. They were racing for it, and that's what it's all about. It is Class E, but they're as equally as serious about taking out their class as the guys in A1 are at the moment, and there's a question mark that really it hangs over all three of those Lotuses out in front at the moment. And just notice the last couple of laps, Adam Hargraves in the black Lotus, that thing's getting real loud.
Yeah.
It's failing underneath them almost, that thing.
I love the play on words from Grant Denyer before, where he said, it sounded like a truck, but we just keep trucking
on. That's right.
Hey, great news for those on Commodore Watch, like myself. Nathan Callahan's jumped into the big bagger. Chris Lillis out, and that car back on track at the moment.
There's the Easy Pos car. It's had Johnny Goodacre driving it at the last round. Johnny not here this weekend, but good to see the car continuing on in its livery that has served Johnny Goodacre for so long. So Ian Sherrin at the moment is starting to move up onto the back of that number 5 we mentioned, the Hargraves car. That is, it is getting louder and louder.
Well, that gap
at this
now,
point in time, and the gap is quite visual.
8.7 seconds.
Yeah, it's from the hairpin to Corporate Hill. And that's I'm going to say, because the BMW is running well. It's kind of running faultless. The Lotus is very, very noisy, and you'd have to suggest a ticking clock at the moment, which the ticking clock says 25 minutes and 55 seconds. If it starts to ail too much, they're going to be in a world of strife, that's for sure.
Can give you the mail, Jazz. He's going to pass him within the next lap or two. That's now down to 6.5 seconds.
Here's the Hargraves car coming down the straight.
So,
yeah, that's way louder than what it has been the rest of the weekend.
So he's pulled 2 seconds off him effectively in a sector, now down to 5.5 seconds. So that Lotus is going to yield its position in third in the race very, very soon.
And the Shannons don't have to come back in. They've managed the weekend, correct, or the event quite well. They know the car well now. They know to come to a weekend, the amount of kilometres they're going to have to do and how it has to transpire.
So Tony D'Alberto remains our race leader, a lap ahead of Ryan Simpson. Adam Hargraves currently in third place, but being chased down by this BMW M4. Ian Sherrin behind the wheel of it, and you can see that gap there. It isn't much. It's 5 seconds on the clock. And coming down. Rick Bates currently in 5th place. Dimitri Agathos, great drive by those guys in the 66 car. They're currently in 6th. As we head down to Cameron Van Dungen in the pit lane.
Fuelless Luff Class D Mini guys that came into the pit lane. You saw it in the background before behind Elliot Barber. They actually came in because the battery came loose and started shorting on the bracket. So they think they've fixed that and put it back out on track.
Wow, that's not good. So we've had battery terminals go loose. We've had batteries getting loose in cars. A couple of interesting situations that you wouldn't normally expect to happen on race day. There's Ian Sherrin now down to 4.3 seconds, the margin between himself. Now down to 3.6 between himself and Hargraves. Adam Hargraves in the Lotus. Of course, Adam Hargraves and Jake Camilleri stepping into the Lotus for the first time this time round.
There's that black Lotus coming around the track here. Huge question marks hanging over the top of it. We'll see how it all plays out. 23 minutes and 16 seconds left. We've covered exactly 3 hours and 36 minutes and 50 seconds now. So it's a big day in the 4 hour. We're going to add an extra 2 hours to the final round and have a 6 hour at Phillip Island. I'd love to see you all down there for that. Be a great weekend.
Yeah, it will be.
First
Fantastic.
weekend in November. Get down there and see a 6 hour production car race.
Effectively a long weekend as well down in Melbourne, because we've got Cup Day on the Tuesday.
Yep. So here it is. They're in the same corner now. Just dispatching the Volkswagen Golf R. It's doing a pretty strong job as well in its class, the Volkswagen. It's currently 11th on the road.
Kudos to the Sherrons here, Daz.
Yeah,
They've been able to stick within.
This is a fight back, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
This is a fight back.
They've been close enough to make sure, and we said it earlier on, didn't we, that they just had to be there in case something happened to one of these cars to give themselves a chance, and we're seeing it happen right here.
Yeah, it's really starting to haul it in now. And it's buoying, I guess, the Sherrons. It's giving them a reason, you know, to sort of go on the gazumping of the Lotuses. And, you know, the Lotus there's an issue with it. It's clearly having a mechanical problem. But, you know, they've got a 6 hour race that they're going to have to complete. If they can't get to the end of 4 hours, they've got some work to do.
There it is. Got him? No, didn't get him that time.
This is for a podium, so it's real. Adam Hargraves is going to defend. He's not just going to let him drive on by.
And I like the fact that he thinks he might be able to do that.
Yes. Yes.
At some point, you've got to concede that it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, Ian Sherrin streams on by in the Sherrin Rentals BMW M4. That is for a podium place. So it mixes the marks up on the podium now. It's 2 Lotuses and a BMW. 3.7 seconds between, 3.7 laps between Sherrin and Simpson. That's not going to happen. But 1 lap now between Ryan Simpson and Tony D'Alberto. Tony D'Alberto has turned up the wick just a little bit. In fact, he set that fastest lap of the race for that car on lap 1:14. So the car's still strong. It's not ailing like the Hargraves car is at the moment. Oh, we've got a stopper.
Oh, goodness.
That's the Auburn car too. Leading Class C.
Yeah, it was.
And a lap up on the Naylor car.
Oh,
Hargraves now losing concentration. Lost a spot on the podium. Now starting to wane a bit in concentration there, going off the back of the ripple strip and doing it again there. So a little bit dejected behind the wheel, struggling to maintain composure. Safety car.
Yeah. Or is there more to it, Daz, than that? It might be concentration, or there may even actually be something pretty seriously wrong with that car. It's lost a fair bit of time.
Unlapping.
Yeah, trying to. Did he do it?
I can't now, not under the safety car, that's for sure.
No.
Can't pass now.
There they are there.
So safety car is deployed. The Auburn car has pulled up on the run up to the final complex on the track here. So the Melbourne BMW M4 comes back onto our track with 19 minutes left to go. Let's hope this is a quick recovery.
Bang.
As we go there now on green flag, and they charge down the straight. There's a couple of loud sounding Lotuses out there, and the one that's doing the chasing sounds red hot to go. Look at the build up on the exit of turn 1. If someone gets pushed wide there, they're going to struggle to stay on the track. The marbles,
yeah,
they're called that for a reason, because when you get on them, it's like going on a whole lot of marbles out there, and it heads you off. I was trying to think of another word there, but that was exactly what it is. It's what they're called. And have a look at this. Ryan Simpson all over the back of a guy that's had a pro career in V8 supercars. They're in like machinery. We know Ryan did such a great job in GT3 Cup Challenge and Kumo V8 touring cars. He switches to the inside and just gazumps the green car. In fact, not gazumped. I think Tony D'Alberto opened up the steering wheel and went, well, you wanted that bad, buddy. You got a whole lap to make up in the next 15 minutes. All the best to you.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how close he can get as he starts to pull away now from the green machine, which obviously is just a little bit.
Well, the good thing is that the Simpson Policena car now finishes on the lead lap.
Yeah, true. That's true.
You know, they're back on the lead lap. That's good. There's nothing in it. There's no extra points for that. It's just a pride thing that we finished there with them.
So we have Tony D'Alberto behind the lead car at the moment. It sits behind that white and black car, which is driven by Ryan Simpson. That is currently second. So the green car is actually in the lead. The white and black car is actually second place. A lap down, or unlapped himself now. Ian Sherrin in the BMW M4, currently in third place. 12 and a half minutes to go in this 4-hour race for the 2018 Jacuzzi Spas Australian Production Car Series. Penultimate round here at Sydney Motorsport Park. We head to Phillip Island for the final race in 6 weeks' time, which is the massive 6-hour.
And of course, the final day, the final 15 minutes of the 2018 Shannons Nationals. It's been a strong season again this year. Plenty of plans for next year. So stay tuned to social medias and communications and media alike for the announcement of the calendar for next year. It's going to be another big year. Quite a lot of new things happening on the local landscape. So keep up with it. It'll be coming your way in the not too distant future. Here is Ryan Simpson driving again another stint of his life in not 1 year, not 1 month, but just a matter of weeks ago. He had to do exactly the same thing to try and bring this car home for a win. There is... Oh.
There's a car off at pit exit on turn 1. Could this be a safety car? No.
Are our TV directors directing this race? Are they calling this for what it is?
Having said that, if it is, there's going to be a whole field between Ryan Simpson and Tony D'Alberto. So he's going to have to pass a few cars to get there. But boy, oh boy, we'll see that car stricken at pit exit in just a tick as our cameras follow our lead cars around. And Ian Sherrin currently in 3rd place.
This is a good drive. In fact, Rick Bates and Bob Pearson have done a tremendous job. These guys have as well. I've mentioned it every time. They've been flying under the radar all day long. They're just sneaking up on the result. And that's kind of how they've gone about it. They've set their plan up. And this is the way the D'Alberto Denia car went about it. They set their plan up. They didn't go after Ryan Simpson as he was sprinting away with the race lead early on.
Correct.
The Shannons and this car that's leading the race with Tony D'Alberto currently at the wheel set a plan. There's been some interlopers in the plan along the way, some story changes and some issues, but certainly the plan is now starting to show how it's going to transpire.
Tell you what, Rick Bates, 37 seconds behind Jake Camilleri in the Lotus. Don't think he'll catch him. With only 9 minutes to go, 37 seconds is a fairly large gap to make up.
But the Evo's going well, and we know the Lotus
has got problems.
Got an issue. Here it comes now, down the straight. And it's loud. Gee, it almost sounds like a GT3 car, or a more like a, don't know, like something.
Super sport bike.
Yeah, it's a drone out of that V6. So 9 minutes left to go. 5:25 is the time. And there goes Ryan Simpson. That's Tony D'Alberto, our race leader. The Just Cuts, WMY Simply Sports Cars, Lotus Exige Sport 350.
By the way, Tony D'Alberto knows that he's got to keep that car going fast because he's just done the fastest lap of his car.
He has to.
A 1:40.9 and lap 1:26, which was the last lap.
Yep. So no problems. Don't look here. Look here in about 8 minutes and 43 seconds. We'll let you know how we've gone.
Yeah.
So there it is. Tony D'Alberto leading over Ryan Simpson. The Sherrin entry there. Then it's Jake Camilleri in the Lotus. Rick Bates, Dimitri Agathos in the WRX. That's a good run. The Muller car there in 7th. The BMW. Hadrian Morel in a BMW. Cavic, Cox. Jordan Cox in the BMW. He's in 10th in the 135i. Keane, Karadimas in 12th. Oliver Shannon, the Naylor car, Callum Jones. It's a good run. And now they're second in behind Lee Naylor in that class. Then it's Jimmy Vernon. That's a good run for Class E. They're doing a good job, haven't they? Mark Griffith and Jimmy Vernon. That's a strong job.
There's the Rick Bates and Bob Pearson car. Stone motherless last after the first lap, having to pull into pit lane with a punctured front right. They've come out and they've finished, they are going to finish in 5th place, which is going to be an amazing effort by those guys.
Ben Cavic in the car just in front of this one here, which has got Beric Linton at the wheel. Tim Lay at the wheel now. They're running 20th. They'll pick up 3 points. So if at the end of the season it's a count back and there's 3 points needed, they'll be rapt that they fixed that hub and got back out in it. And he streams on by Ben Cavic down the straight there. So it's a couple of Evo 10s line astern with each other. Bob Pearson and Rick Bates in the product car. Comes down the side of the number 15 of Ben Cavic at the moment. And there's the car currently second on the road and 1 minute and 38 seconds behind our race leader, Tony D'Alberto.
Starting to get a little bit dark here at Sydney Motorsport Park. The wind definitely remains at a very strong breeze down the main straight. And I suggest that the temperature's got even cooler than what it was when we last spoke to Greg Rust about it, because it looks fairly cool out there and cloudy. With 6 minutes to go, you wouldn't want to go an extra half an hour, I would have thought. Otherwise, it'd be fight the night too.
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
So there's our second car, which is also our, well, not our lead car, it's our second car, but it leads our lead car at the moment on that picture. but he's just unlapped himself a couple of laps ago as Ryan Simpson. Tony D'Alberto still in the lead car. Some 1 minute 37 seconds between himself and Ryan Simpson. Then Ian Sherrin. There's Grant Denyer on screen. He had a big stint in the car. Handed it over to Tony D'Alberto. Would have liked to have done so a little bit earlier, but unfortunately, due to the safety car coming out when it did, it just didn't have. They had too much time to give to Tony, so they had to send Grant out for a few more laps, wash off a few minutes, and then be able to send Tony D'Alberto back out to not exceed that 2.5 hour maximum for a driver in this race. 2 hours continuous driving maximum, but 2.5 hours overall for the race, and they've done that. Let's have a look at some of the other classes that have been entertaining us throughout the day. The A1 class, of course, is Tony D'Alberto. That car is our leading car. It leads from Ryan Simpson. Ian Sherrin currently in 3rd place in the A1. As we head down to B1, actually A2, I should mention, is Nathan Callahan. They are down in 21st position, Nathan Callahan and Chris Lillis. That car there leads the B1. It is the car of Jordan Cox. Been doing a great job all throughout the day as well with Scott Turner. That BMW 135i currently leads James Keane, who's in the 2nd placed B1 car at the moment. And off there for Hadrian Morale. Brings it back onto track. As we make our way to C class, and the leading car there is the 42 of Lee Naylor. Shares it with Mitch Naylor. Naylor Racing in the Mazda. Leading Class C, doing a good job of it as well. Just behind them is the Renault Megane of Cal Jones. Of course, he shares that with the boss, Colin Osmond. And a 10-second margin between those two in Class C. Class D, currently being led by Oliver Shannon. Good drive by those guys as well. In the 88, Ollie Shannon and Justin Rougier in the Toyota 86. There it is on screen at the moment. It currently leads Class D ahead of Matt Lewis in the 51. Of course, he shares that with Richard Luff, the Mini JCW. There it is on screen now. And from Class D, we go to our final class, which of course is Class E. And that is being led by Jimmy Vernon. Doing a great job out there, Jimmy Vernon, at the moment. Been driving a big last stint. Mark Griffith, of course, he shares the car with. Griffith Corporation sponsoring that Toyota Echo. Grant Denyer leading Class A in the garage. He's done his job. His teammate now, Tony D'Alberto, looking for back-to-back-to-back wins for these guys. They took out the 2nd race at Queensland Raceway. They had a fantastic run at Winton, and now looking to do it again here at Sydney Motorsport Park. And one would think would probably just take the lead in the championship by around about 30 or so points to Tim Lay and the car that he shares with Beric Linton. Is our leader in Class C, Lee Naylor. Doing a good job there too, the Naylor boys. In their Toyota. With just under a minute and a half to go until we call an end to this 4-hour Jacuzzi Spa Australian Production Car Series race. Back on board with our lead car. 1 minute 36 between it and Ryan Simpson, the 2nd of the Lotuses. As it pulls away again. Done it numerous times. There's Jimmy Vernon. He shares that Toyota with Mark Griffiths, the leader of Class E. They didn't have it all their own way. Elliot Barber was out there in a big fight with Jimmy Vernon. Unfortunately, though, for Elliot Barber and James Brock, that MG came to an end with around about half an hour or so to go in the race. And they've had to garage it and finish its day. The Green Lotus with 1 lap to go. 26 seconds on the clock. Be interesting to see whether they'll get to the line before the time runs out. I don't think they will. I think we might be okay. This probably is the final lap, I would suggest, for our leaders. As Tony D'Alberto, who's got a massive job ahead of him in 2 weeks' time, co-driving with one of the favoured cars for Dick Johnson Racing and Team Penske. He'll be sharing that car with Fabian Coulthard, and hopefully adding a Bathurst win to these wins that he's had so far in the last couple of race meetings he's been to with the Lotus team. Simply Sports Cars and Jets Just Cuts, the major sponsor of this car, as Tony D'Alberto brings it around for the last few turns. Ryan Simpson holds on to second. He crosses the line now. But our lead car and our winner makes its way down the main straight. Put your hands together for Tony D'Alberto and Grant Denyer, our winners of our 4-hour extravaganza here at Sydney Motorsport Park. And that one feels good for the team. Grant Denyer pumped, and so he should be. A big stint from him in the middle. And another #1 for these boys. They take the championship lead in their Lotus Exige. Tony D'Alberto bringing it home. Grant Denyer having a great drive as well today. Ryan Simpson and Jim Policina finishing in second place. Ian and Grant Sherrin bringing their BMW M4 home in third overall. A great drive for those guys. And then the third of the Lotuses, or the Lotai, not sure how you pronounce Lotus in plural, but Jake Camilleri and Adam Hargraves in the #5, the Black Lotus, coming in 4th place. Rick Bates, a good drive by him as well. And his teammate Bob Pearson in that Product Evo 10. As we said, they were stone motherless last after the first lap. A puncture to their right front. They had to bring it in, get it changed, and take it back out and bring it home in 5th place. A great effort by them as well. The peace sign and a wave to the fans from Tony D'Alberto. Another fantastic win for that Lotus. And here is our race results. Tony D'Alberto and Grant Denyer in our lead car. Ryan Simpson bringing home the second Lotus Exige. Ian Sherrin sharing that BMW M4 with Grant Sherrin in 3rd place. Jack Camilleri bringing home the Lotus in 4th. Rick Bates and Bob Pearson in 5th place. Dimitri Agathos in 6th. Thomas Muller 7th. Hadrian Morale in 8th place. As we flip the page, James Keane in the Volkswagen in 11th. George Karadimas in the Big Falcon 12th. Oliver Shannon in the Toyota 86 in 13th. Lee Naylor, Callum Jones, Jimmy Vernon, Matt Lewis, Tim Lay, Blake Orban and Nathan Callahan in the Commodore in 20th place. And Ian Salteri finishing in 21st. And our non-finishers, Elliot Barber, Jason Miller, and the number 84 car for Jason Walsh and Jerry Burgess, finishing 24th and last. Well, celebrations all round for the Lotus team. There they are. They've shared a fantastic drive, these two guys. Again, here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and Cameron Van den Dungens down there with the winners.
I'm going to step right in now. I'll let you get yourself composed. Grant Denyer, when you heard the noise coming out from that engine, did you think you were going to be able to bring it home?
No, normally those things progress and get worse and worse and worse and suck more power and more power and more power from the engine. So you kind of feel like a sitting duck out there, and then you don't want it to sort of create more problems that are going to make you retire. So you spend the whole session just nervous as anything, and it's really good to bring it home. It was really good to bring it home.
We talked a bit off camera about how bad that safety car timing was early on, as well of the dramas. It just seemed like the race wasn't that easy today for you.
Oh, it certainly wasn't, because we weren't fast enough. So we had to play a bit of strategy, take a little bit of risk. We only changed the right rear during the race, so we took a bit of risk there, and Grant did a great stint in the middle, and lucky enough to get us a big enough gap that at the end we weren't really under much pressure.
I'm going to take you back to Sandown, when I think Friday it was all over for you at the first round. No points that weekend. You managed to build, and look where you are now.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't have thought we'd be sitting in this position. You know, we're still coming to grips with the little Lotus, and it's got its vulnerabilities, but we're still learning to tune it. The Simply Sports Car guys have put together a great car, and we're working really well together. And now we've had 4 wins in a row, so that's incredible. You know, maybe we might have a shot at the title. I don't really know. I haven't done the maths, but it's been good. Been a good recovery.
All right, guys, I'll let you get to the podium now. We'll jump in behind about the Hunters. Here they are behind us, and we'll get him out of the car as he gets out of the car. Jim Polishino, I'm going to grab you firstly. Mate, it was a hunt on at the end there, and that safety car, if not for maybe 20 seconds more, you could have been right in that hunt.
Oh, luck didn't go our way today. The car was fast. Ryan was driving it really well. A little bit of bad luck at the safety cars, but we'll have another crack at Phillip Island.
The speed that you had in this car, not only at Winton, but here, was unbelievable. You must be very proud of this package you put together.
Yeah, the cars are great. I mean, the Lotus does a good package, and Ryan gets absolutely everything out of it. So, yeah, very happy with the package.
Let's grab Ryan right now. Now, Ryan, we just talked about that safety car. Did you mutter anything under your helmet when you saw it come out just before you were about to take that lap back?
Yeah, I wasn't too well informed out there, so I wasn't sure what lap I was on. I just saw the green car in front and knew we were closing the gap, so I thought, you know, we're just going to catch him and pass him. We're a lap down, so it would have been nice to get the safety car, but probably would have made no difference in the end, being at the end of that, you know, catching up to him. So we did our best. We'll have to come back next time and do better.
Fantastic. I'll let you get to the podium. Let's grab the Shannons before they jump up there. Well done. You hunted down those Lotuses in the end, and the car held together. Great job.
Yeah, the car was bulletproof. You know, I guess that's a year of development last year, and you know, we know we've got a good package, and you know, the guys out the front were quick today, but I think at Phillip Island, with the extra legs that this has got, we could see it in the straight today, but you know, they're still a bit quick around the corners. But bring on Phillip Island, I think we'll have their measure.
Well, we thought that these might have gone through, the BMWs might have gone through tyres a bit harder than the Lotuses. How did you manage that throughout the race?
Oh, it's just like Ian said, the development over the last 12 months. We went through it last year. If you look back, you know, there was 4 one-hour races and we blew tyres. So we've just learned how to manage them over the 12 months, and we did that today, and they held up great.
All right, let's actually start walking you guys up to the podium, because we're not far away from it as well. But I just also, very briefly, just wanted to say to you, did you think you had it in you to bring home a podium this weekend?
Yeah, we definitely did. Like, it's, you know, obviously we would have liked to have been further up the podium. So we're always confident, but, you know, like, third was good. We knew we had the pace. So, yeah, we're always confident coming in.
It's been a remarkable afternoon of racing here. The grand final of the Shannons Nationals for 2018. We are set for the podium after the 4-hour, a fabulous 4-hour for the Australian Production Car Series, brought to you by Jacuzzi Spas. In third place today, it could have been a Lotus lockout, but these BMW drivers chipped away and they prevented that from happening. Give it up for Grant and Ian Sherrin, third today. As they make their way to the podium, I'm told too that Ryan Simpson's Nana Irene is our podium trophy presenter today. Lovely, nice family touch. Well done to Grant and Ian. Now to second place today, Ryan Simpson and Jim Polishino. This will be a special trophy for Nana to present. Very cool. Well done to Jim as well. It's a Lotus 1-2 here this afternoon, complete with the gold Logie Lucky Charm on the roof, taking it out, and importantly, great points for their championship, Grant Denyer and Tony D'Alberto. Marvellous performance as they take their spots on the podium here, and a chance for our photographers to grab a quick photo or two.
Thanks, mate. Sorry.
Gentlemen, the podium and the champagne are yours. Let the celebrations begin.
Oh, there you go. Happiness down there on the podium, especially from the Shannons, who halfway through the race weren't going to look like they were going to get a podium at all. But just good, strong driving kept them in touch with that third Lotus, the number 5 Lotus. Let's have a look at the highlights. Great start from Bob Pearson in that big Evo, the white Evo, and a good start for our front runners as well. Unfortunately, though, for Bob and Tim Lay, there was a bit of a touch-up just around here somewhere, we believe going into turn 2. That then caused a punch-up for Bob Pearson and brought him into pit lane. Brian Simpson taking the early lead, a lock-up there for Grant Sherrin in the BMW M4 early on. Hadrian Morale in the 4, getting the early stint done. It's a good move there by Grant Sherrin on Tim Lay.